Yes, man, we're up, we're up. I'm here, I am here. Yeah, man, the renegade when afraid. Alongside Herb Nelson Jr.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
see somebody can come in. And today we're going to have two other guests. Maria Edwards. She's coming in very, very soon. She's on her way home now. And then we're going to have Dr. Devon Taylor. Yeah, I Radigan. May I tell you, hey, hold on, Radigan?
You see my road? You see my road, Sir Herb? You see my road? You see my road?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
aye. You step
My
up with me,
road.
man. Hold on there.
You see
Hey,
my
Hold on
road?
there.
You see
you clean up the thing?
What? Hey, what again? You must up there now, you know.
Polish.
I
Well,
might
I
place that,
tell
you
you.
know.
Eh?
I might place that, man.
Jesus wisdom. My word verse, me have to put up my word in the rat again.
Give me 1 second. I'm just run go grab my phone. 1 second. I'm just gonna grab my phone.
Yes, man. Yes, man. Me I tell you, man. Today I got hot, you know. It got really hot. Yeah, man. Me have to put up my road, man, because my road gone back to the Stone Age, you know, Herb.
Yeah.
My road gone back straight to the Stone Age. No joke about it.
So you're going to help out that other minister put up St. Catherine behind you too?
Yes, yes. Welcome, Dr. Taylor. How you
Blessing.
doing?
Doing well, doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, man, we're all right. We're all right.
Good, good, good,
We're
good.
getting things starting. We see Radigan put up the, him film road behind him. I forgot to put up my one because my one gone back here, caveman days, you know. Yes, man.
Is
My
Dr.
road gone
Taylor
back
going
straight
for
to
study
caveman days.
why Rattigan don't have access to good fencing?
Huh?
Why is it Rattigan don't have access to good fencing in his neighborhood?
Well, me I tell you, boy,
Yeah.
you want to see my neighborhood? God. Anyway, make we get started now, right? We see the finance minister. He did come out with the FSL. First thing we'll start with, right? And then he make some talk, and he make some talk. I tell me, say we're gonna play the clip. Them in touch with the FBI and them advance in some things. Then we see a police came out and said not like that. We don't have no FBI, and then them come back and go sign some documents with some people in a UK. We don't have no name. And then we hear this thing go right down. So we still have to ask question because we have to keep these things in the media houses. Make us show you some clips. I'm gonna go to some clips and then we'll start. This is one of the clips, right? Watch this.
Will be left unturned. That's Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark restating the government's commitment to the investigation in the multi-million-dollar fraud case at Stocks and Securities Limited. The minister notes before he made the announcement of the FBI's inclusion, investigative bodies were already collaborating with the Bureau. Since then, Dr. Clark says the FBI's involvement has been solidified into the investigations and will only get more aggressive.
In the briefing that I have received, based on developments, the FBI is going to be intensifying their involvement even beyond what would have been thought when I first made that statement.
The minister notes the ministry has already written to an international partner for assistance with forensic auditing, and the government of Jamaica is prepared to foot the bill for their involvement.
If somebody wants to give us, we will take it first, right? But this is so important. We are going to allocate the space in our budget to make sure we can procure the best international forensic experts that we can find.
And since then, Dr. Clark says the ministry has identified a firm, and the procedures involved in contracting said firm are already underway.
The cyber resources and cyber forensic resources of the government of Jamaica have also been activated. And all avenues that cyber can reach, and I don't have to specify them, all of them will be opened up with no stone left unturned.
Nasika Aliman reporting for CVM Live.
All right, so no stone left unturned, right? come out of this one. No stone left unturned. I'm going to play something else, right?
Yeah.
All right, we just play something there, right? We just play the finance minister. He might tell you the FBI well advanced. That's what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
That in well advanced. And then I don't know when I see the FBI. Then we'd have McClarkin come out and said them don't have any FBI, right? Right,
Yep.
Fatty? All right. Then we come out and we see this. We go play this one. Play this one. We go see this one. We go see this one. This one. Look at this
Time
one.
News, a follow-up now. Overseas financial auditors have officially been brought in to assist in the ongoing fraud case at Stocks and Securities Limited SSL. Kroll Associates UK today signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Finance. Anthony Lugg has the details.
The clock has been ticking and the country has been growing impatient about the investigation into the multi-million-dollar fraud at Stocks and Securities Limited SSL. In January, the Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, revealed that international forensic partners were engaged, but since then, there have been no update. On Tuesday, however,
we are here today to sign with Kroll Associates UK, a firm of a subsidiary of Kroll International, which is a firm known for their forensic audit experience and expertise. This fraud, as I mentioned, and as the other members of, the executive director of the FID mentioned, is complex, complicated because of the length of time over which it was perpetrated.
Kroll Associates UK brings to the table over 100 years' experience in forensic auditing. Dr. Clark is confident the international firm will be able to assist with the investigations.
Kroll will bring to the table in their assistance to FID technology and the fraud squad, technology and expertise that will enable the investigators to unravel every aspect of this fraud.
So far, former wealth advisor Jean Ann Panton is facing multiple charges in relation to the fraud. The police have been mum on whether there are accomplices. So, as the international auditor digs into the matter, all eyes will be watching. In the midst of it all, skepticism among some Jamaicans about the possible outcome.
All right, so let me just go back to this now. I want to ask about this company, Kroll. And me just see the reporter. You can hear me, Ratty?
Yeah. You can't hear me?
Yeah, man, you're good, man. Everything good. You're good, you know, Ratty. Yeah, you're good, man.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I have a little problem with that speaker, but no, I can't hear you. Go ahead.
So with them say over 100 years about forensic auditing. You can't tell me when forensic auditing come in because I don't think over 100 years now. But them reporter you get something.
Herb can't tell about
forensic auditing over 100 years, brother. That sound like news to my ears. Me can't go Google it in about 100 years. Herb.
Look, I don't know if Sherlock Holmes had his act together back then. And he certainly wasn't a forensic auditor. Auditing has been an art form that they perfect in the accounting field. I know you can do a deep audits where you cross the T's, like the British used to do, where you had to balance your books to the very penny. I remember doing that when I was with John Crook downtown at Harbour Street, and I was doing accounts receivable, accounts payable. We had to come out to the penny, right? You spend all the time looking for a penny, and the cost to them was a lot more than that one penny. But that was the British methodology.
Mm-hmm.
But, I could look up and tell you when forensic.
Make I just tell that the reporter know. So them saying forensic accounting was not formally defined until the 1940s. Originally, Frank Wilson is created with the birth of forensic accounting in the 1930s. Wilson was working as a CPA for the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. He was assigned to investigate the transaction of the infamous gangster Al Capone, and that happened in the 30s. That is not 100 years, sir.
No.
If you say anywhere in the 30, even for 1930, 2030, that'll be 100 years. And up in the 30s, because we know about Al Capone, and this is not a forensic audit, because remember, you know, I watch forensic files, and it'll show you back in the days when them certain DNA never even debut, or certain forensic never come to maturity, even in the 70s. So why them so over 100 years? Me not even understand them. Me understand this. But anyway, going back to that now, Ratty.
Yes, sir.
That mean the finance minister did not tell me lie, same way I talk about the FBI. Now me have to talk to you on this now, you know. Because them don't pan it and say them did well advanced. Then you have a police who if you believe the police were head of CTAC. Come and say, no, we don't need them. If we need them, we deal with them. And then them come out and make a giant statement. And then we don't hear nothing else.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be generous in terms of describing the statements made by the minister and say that it was the statements appear to be misrepresentations. I not to be politically correct, you know, but no, the if you go back and look at the sequence of events, the statement was made by the minister. The announcement was made by the minister, not by the Minister of National Security, neither him nor the Prime Minister nor the Police Commissioner. It was made by the Minister of Finance that the FBI was involved and that they were involved much more than he originally thought. Then we had a statement coming out from Mr. Brooks, Ricardo Brooks from Nationwide, I believe, who said that the investigation was being conducted. There was no FBI presence on the island, and that the investigation, if conducted, was being conducted out of the main office in the Dominican Republic. Then we had Mr. McLaughlin came out and he said, no, it's a local investigation, and if we need the FBI, if we find international tentacles, then at that point, and only at that point, we'll invite them to come in and assist. Then we had the minister who come back and said, no. The Mr. McLaughlin, even though he's in charge of CTAC and they're spearheading the investigation, he said, no, he was referring to the local investigation. He wasn't referring to the investigation in its totality. Well, I find that to be interesting because it's one investigation. It's one big investigation, and this lady is just one part of it. So if the FBI is involved, they would be involved with the whole thing. So I don't understand that. And then we heard statements after saying that, well, you know, the Mr. McLaughlin, he wasn't really, you know, he was trying to focus on a question that was asked of him, a very narrow question concerning the investigation of Miss Panton, and that the answer was given for that particular thing. But I find that still interesting because, again, it's one big investigation. Now, we heard rumors that there were 40 FBI agents on the island. No, when I joined the FBI in 1987, as I've said many times before, there were 4% people who look like me. When I left almost 30 years later, still 4% who look like me. If you have 40 FBI agents on the island, you go and know them. You go and know them because they don't look like me and you. Right. You go and see them. And then not only that, them don't come for play.
I make a giant statement.
Yeah, them don't come for play the role as a statue. Yes. Them go and go out and interview people. So people go and talk. Jamaica's a small island. People go and talk, you know, and people go and see them. Plus, if they really, really wanted to make a statement about the FBI being involved, why didn't they do a joint press conference the way they did with Kroll? That would have been, I mean, the symbolism of that alone to say, well, they're here. You know what I mean? The FBI wouldn't even have to speak, although they would. But to say, well, we're here and we're but it would be limited. We're here and we're assisting with the investigation and that's it, right? But that would be so symbolic. And I've done this many, many times all over the world. So it's I'm gonna be generous and politically correct and say that the statements we have heard so far from the government, they seem to be misrepresentations. Plus, the fact is this, and I said this: the FBI is not going to share space and share information with a private entity because of two things. One, clearance issues. These guys, do they have top secret clearance? Do they have the clearance that they can deal with these things? And the FBI, they don't want to work with people who don't have that clearance. Otherwise, what they do, they dumb it down. They make it unclass. The second thing is need to know. I remember I told you already, Lonesome, that if there's a squad next to me and they're working a separate matter, and I start looking into their files, immediate investigation, because they say, well, you don't have a need to know what's going on over here. So why are you asking for stuff over here? Why are you peering into our files? And again, I've seen the results of that. I've seen the consequences. I saw an FBI agent, a talented FBI agent, go down in flames simply because he went and he started looking all over the place, which you're not supposed to do. And he wandered into some top secret files. And there is a system where if you go into somebody's file, immediately you're notified that, hey, somebody's looking in your, this guy's looking, not somebody, this guy is looking in your file. And it caused serious problems for him, and his career ended. So two things: clearance, need to know. Kroll doesn't have that. So I can't say the FBI sitting down with them at the table and say, we're going to share information with you and this and that and that. No. Everything would be walled off. They were like, no. Another thing is that the FBI, they're internationally known for forensics. So if you ask them for assistance and you say, you lay it out, this is what we're looking, and the FBI, they're very generous in terms of providing assistance for international investigations. They have the personnel, and they have the technology to do forensics, the type of forensics that they're asking for regarding accounting. I mean, I used to work with them. They used to be in my unit. So they have them, and they're glad. And I tell you what, they'd put that notice out. You'd have 100 people fighting to come to Jamaica to say, hey, where is them hand? I say, we want to come help. Because Jamaica, the brand. Not the bad brand, the good brand, the good part of Jamaica, right? They come. I'm telling you. So the fact that they're going out and looking for, and if you remember another thing, what the minister said was that he asked an international partner for a recommendation regarding a forensics company. That's what he said in his first statement. And he said they were looking around, and there were some people that the Jamaican government was looking at, and pretty soon they'd make a decision. So that tells me that the FBI, what is likely when they say the FBI is assisting, is that the FBI has one person, one agent in Jamaica. Shouldn't say one person, because I think they may have a secretary there, but they have one agent on the ground. And they may have gone to him and said, listen, can you do some background traces on this person? Can you provide some bank records regarding this? Can you provide some telephone records regarding this? Can you provide some miscellaneous thing regarding this investigation? And the FBI would say, okay, fine, no problem. Because they have their own files. They'd open up a file, and then they'd send out the request, which we call a lead, and the information would come back, and then you'd pass it on. If that's the assistance they're talking about, that's routine. That's why the person is there. That's routine. So, I mean, I'm confused. I really am. And I've been calling all of my sources in Jamaica and said, hey, we don't see no FBI. We don't see nobody when they look like me. We said my FBI and thing. And I'm saying, no, we don't see nobody. So I want to know, who are they into? Oh, it's so many things that pop up now in my mind. The other thing is that if I were advising the Jamaican government regarding this whole thing and getting the FBI involved, I would sit down and said, okay, we have to have terms of reference. We have to figure out, okay, when you come FBI, what will you be responsible for doing? Because one of the more serious aspects of international investigations is allowing your nationals to be interviewed by foreign investigators. And I've seen where host country governments said to the FBI, no, we're not going to let you talk to our citizens. You give us the questions, you identify the person, we will talk to them, we'll get the answers, and we'll give the answers to you. And I've seen where they said, yeah, go ahead, talk to them, no problem. And I've also seen where they said, yeah, you can talk to them, but we have to be in the room as well. So I don't know if all of this work. I don't know if Jamaica even said, okay, we're gonna let Miss Panton, we're gonna throw Miss Panton at you, and then you guys can just do whatever you want to do. So investigations, that's one. Then you have to have a place, a command center, who's gonna take charge of that. Then you have who's gonna be in control of the investigation. Will it be the Jamaican government, the Jamaican law enforcement authorities, or will it be the FBI, or will it be joint? Or will it be joint plus Kroll? I mean, there's so many issues there, man. So many issues there.
All right, so Ratty. All right, now go throw the question back to Dr. Taylor. I wanted to introduce yourself to the panel today.
Oh, hold on. Sorry for interrupting. Big up yourself, Doc. Big up yourself. Must have go blind. sorry. My apologies here. So, and good evening to Lonesome's listening audience and viewing audience. My apologies for my bad manners. I should have said that before I even say another word, but I apologize. Good evening, everyone.
Yes, man. So, Doc, unmute your mic.
Yes, give thanks. Yeah. So I'm basically Devon Taylor from JABEM. JABEM is the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement. And JABEM is basically an environmental movement with a social justice nucleus. And what we're actually about is that, there has been a significant, loss in beach access in Jamaica. And we are positioning ourselves to reclaim that, those beaches for the Jamaican people, because the laws that are existing in Jamaica as far as it concerns beaches does not give Jamaicans general rights of access to the beaches and to the foreshore. And so with the commercialization of the Jamaican coast, from tourism and other commercial activity, we just have a very accelerated loss in accessing the beaches. And if you're following out there, you will see just in the news every day, we're losing beaches. The most recent is the Blue Lagoon. Little Duns River is closed. It's an attempt to shut down Bob Marley Beach down in Bull Bay. We'll let that protest and protect that for right now, but it's still under threat. So JABEM is positioned itself to really advocate for a fundamental change in the law. And that premier law that actually is responsible for regulation of coastal spaces is a colonial era law called the Beach Control Act of 1956. And that's our target, to really repeal and replace that legislation, because it does not give us that general rights of access.
Can you read something from that law for me, from the law from 1956?
Yes. So what I want to roll out right here is pretty much the want to roll out the common law version where everyone will understand this version. We have a technical one, we can read that out as well. But basically what it says in Jamaican common law: the public have no general rights of access to the foreshore, except to pass over it for the purpose of navigation or fishing. There is no general right of bathing, right? Remember, let that soak in. No general right of bathing or to walk along the foreshore, except what is acquired by customs or prescription. Nor is there any general right to fish, all right? No person shall be deemed to have any rights in or over the foreshore of the island or the floor of the sea. So basically what this legislation is saying, that you don't have any general right, and any right that you have to get permission, or you have to have a customary right. And what that really translates into, you have to be using that space for a minimum of 20 years and then go into the courts for the court to recognize your right to continue to use it.
But if it's a no person have general right, that means even the hotel don't have no general right for the beaches. They're not supposed to sell out the beaches, because the beaches, remember, you can get invaded by any country. Just you in the western part of the western hemisphere. But you think of it, they're not supposed to sell out no beaches to no hotel or no one. Because you say no one have general rights. When it mean no one, it mean no person.
Yeah.
The government is supposed to sell them it.
Right. So
Why them doing it?
So here's what they do now, right? They have another law in that same act that gives, and here this is section 4 of the act that says any person who is the owner or occupier of any land adjoining the foreshore or any part of the foreshore, and any member of his family or his private guest of his shall be entitled to use that part of the foreshore adjoining his land for his private domestic purposes. That is to say, for bathing, fishing, any recreation. So what the law does, right, it gives anybody who own property that adjoins the ocean the right to all these things that we talk about, to fishing, to recreation, all right, to any kind of activity that they want to do. But if you don't own those properties, you have no general rights and only customary rights. So the law is discriminatory because it gives the ones who own property there the right, and the ones who don't, you don't have any rights. All right.
But as I just say again, even if you own property, it's supposed to be couple, wait I say maybe more than 40 feet from the beach or something, because no one is supposed to have the rights around the beaches. And them know that. All right, we get independent 62, and if them come and say something where it's supposed to change. But me I say, it's a one thing and it's a next thing, but you're not supposed to own the beach. And them know that. The government know that, and them want to go to a loophole. We are telling them no one is supposed to have the right to your beaches. You understand?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be free access for you, me, for Ratty, for Herb, and for all Jamaican, free access. Not you own it. You can't own the beach. But me see like in a St. Thomas where Pernilla same own beach too. And me see some of them me not even understand that. And that means you can't just own beach and anything. A pirate ship just coming. Enough of them a pirate, brother. We talk straight. Right, Ratty? A pirate ship just come in and let off the loot where the pirate ship carrying, and nobody now have no right to go. No, it can't work so.
Yeah.
For the government is supposed to govern the place. So you can't own no right to no beach. If you have some wildfire or something a go on an oil spill, or if you do come knock on a man fence and say, "Let me go through your property because I want to go down on the beach there." How that work?
So the thing is that is that it's a land rights issue. You're correct. The law basically says no one should be deemed to have any rights over the foreshore. All right.
That is it. So the land rights,
which is vested in the crown. All right.
Yes.
But if you own the land before the beach, I can't get to the beach because I can't walk over your land.
That means you're supposed to have access. You can't just own all the land.
Well,
and the government know this.
Well,
that's why we are talking to them straight away there, let me tell you, at the rebel this, fight for your cause, and the man this, the wilderness, ramp, the renegade when afraid, and the herb this, the herb this. You understand? We no ramp around here. So we talk to them straight. So we make them know. Because we see them at take away more and more beaches in Jamaica, And that it's not supposed to happen. In America, North America, where you see hotel, you ever see hotel at take away, you can't go beach yet, or you have to pay for go beach. Hotel in the middle of the place and all over the place. It's not there beach where take with the beaches and all kind of things. It can't work. You go in a London, you go in any place else, you see hotel in the middle of the town and all over the place. Them know what take where you see. You see. And do them know that them can't own the beaches. And them do it more and more. And we have to stop it. It needs to stop. And it take away from the locals. It's wrong. Them cannot own the beach. Impossible. Because if you give a man the beach you own, that means you give away, is that like your sovereignty. Like you give away a right to him carrying a bag of coke. Me just say pirate, me just talk straight. That means he's a coke baron. And him can't say, right, Colombia just a big piece of stretcher just come here so nobody can stop your mile and this. So it come and them just carry the loot and start packet this up. Can't work. The police and things have access around the whole island. The fireman them doing everything because if you have a wreck, the fireman them have to can reach and go rescue. They understand? Me don't know why them doing this. It need to stop. It needs to stop. Where's the herb? Unmute the mic. Unmute the mic, herb. No, your mic, herb. Unmute your mic.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Dr. Taylor. Pleasure seeing you again.
Bless
All right.
up, Herb.
Listen, tell our guests, and matter of fact, good evening to all the folks out there, to tell them which ministry and who is in charge of administration of Jamaica's beaches. Could you please?
Well, we'll get into the bottom of that, But let me say before I say that, all that you just laid out is absolutely true. That should not be the case. There should be easement over all of the lands so people can get to the foreshore, can get to the beaches.
Yes.
All right. And that is one of the things that the Beach Control Act of 1956 does not do. It does not provide those access points for us to use. And the access points that the country have been using and people have been using have been closed down because they sold the lands. And land right is important. Is the access to the beach is over land. So what they're really doing is selling off all these lands that are adjoining the beach, and so you cannot get to them. And so that is what we said. No, we need a repeal and replacement because we need a legislation that is going to open up easement points so the population, so the country, so the people can access the space. We will even go further and said, you need to put most of those beach lands into a trust. So that means that stay in the hands of the country forever. So you talk about sovereignty. If you give up all of the coastal land, you're actually surrendering your sovereignty. You know what I mean? And you can't afford to do that. So you're absolutely correct about that. And so the law and the books right now does not protect. It discriminates against the Jamaican people. So when you say now, Herb, who is it now is the head of this act? Because
who's making the profit from the sale of these lands?
Well, I mean, there's some of these lands are in private hands, so they are private people selling privite lands.
Would you say the majority is in private hands?
No, I don't. I cannot say majority of the beachfront property, is in private hands or in government hands. What we know, though, it's a mix right now that both private and government own beachfront lands, and they sell them. All right, they sell them to hotel. I mean, pretty much that's what they sell them to, and villas and just the wealthy folks, right? That's where it's going. When we talk about the regulatory arm of the Beach Control Act of 1956, is the NRCA. NRCA falls under NEPA. Now, NEPA sits in the office of the Prime Minister. All right. So in the Beach Control Act, it refers to the minister. Okay, is the minister that mandates everything within that act. If there's something that needs to be addressed, minister of the final call on it. Now, who is the head of the office of the Prime Minister?
The Prime Minister himself.
Well, the Prime Minister himself. So by deduction, and I stand corrected if they come and says no, it's not him, the Prime Minister is the head of the Beach Control Act, because he is the head of the ministry under which the Beach Control Act falls. So I mean, it's a very a situation that we really need to really understand, because the Prime Minister the other day in his budget response came out and says all Jamaicans must have access to beaches without question. Now we are in a beach access problem, and he's the head of the whole thing. Why not just fly the gate, with a stroke of a pen and all the power that he has? He can do so. All right. We're having an issue in Blue Lagoon. Basically, they're saying that Blue Lagoon is unable to open. Why? Because they need to build sanitary facility at Blue Lagoon, and the government have no land around Blue Lagoon. I mean, how mad does that sound? That Blue Lagoon is a national monument, and the government of Jamaica owns no land around Blue Lagoon, not even to put a toilet down there.
Hold on. So when does the government lose all those land around Blue Lagoon?
No, that is a good question, because we're still trying to figure that out. We're still trying to figure out all that 238 acres of land that is surrounding the Blue Lagoon. The government has dialed out itself out of all of its land rights. All it owns there is the water and one parochial road that leads down there. And so when we have like Portland Environmental Action Group, that, really collaborate with Jabem and we led a march. And we're trying to understand who own all of this land around the Blue Lagoon. But the crazy part of it is it government of powers through the Land Acquisition Act and also through the Beach Control Act to take any lands it want in the interest of the public. So even if it said don't really own it, it can't just go there and say, no, we need 2 acres right now to deal with the people's business and it's the problem solved. So why are they not doing it?
You know what I want to do for me though, and maybe tomorrow Monday, the land title or the land agency, and you run it and make us see who own these places and when them acquire all these lands. Simple. You need to just do some checking around it, 200 and something acres, because we want to see, because it's a dead and stamp, Because from the other day, them have a Portland invasion up there, where all these guys, big guys, run, and let everybody want a little piece and start build over even in the lagoon itself. And that's amazing. That kind of, it show me back. I mean, I say, I want to go on to Portland. Portland, where enough of the land they don't touch and spoil, them going to spoil it. No! And a time for that stop. But for hold them accountable, because we know what we're going to, But check it up that way. So we're going to see them put some fake title, and if something lost, them supposed to gas it. Me right? I am right? Because them capture things, and I buy them, I buy it, Them capture a lot of things, And them a pass over some other things, loss. And then it put back in the name of this. We don't see that, we don't see nothing more gas it, So we want to know how them come in the position of all these 200 and something acres of land around the Blue Lagoon. Okay? Yes.
It is a very important question to answer.
Yes.
Right? Around the lands that are there. Because you know that the sanitary facility is actually there. I mean, if you go to Jabem on Instagram, we posted a picture of all the sanitary facility that they said they need is actually right there, less than 50 feet from the lagoon behind a wall, a big blue wall that is on the lagoon. If they take down that wall, I mean, all the facility that they need is there. And in fact, the community there has been using that facility for more than 30 years. So how did that wall go up? And who took that property? Who sold that property? So these are scrutiny that we really is inviting from, the different agencies. I really think it's time that the public defender get involved in this, because I do think aspects of the land, loss that happened around the Blue Lagoon could not have been legally done, and above ground, because there's no way a magnificent natural resource like that, could exist. And you just give up all the land. I mean, there's a natural spring there that flows into the lagoon. And of course, the sea that comes in there that really form that blend of a lagoon of what it is. And all of that property that you would require for environmental preservation, you just unload that onto a private citizen. Why would you do that?
As I said before, you can look back on all those titles and documents and some things with them stamped right now. Because, a lot of people up there, people always at the Blue Lagoon, you have tourists, you have some tourists always, tourist attraction and everything. But all of a sudden, this boom over like 2-3 years, and everybody, the land is gone. I see some march down there, like them can't go on the property again. I mean, I say, what's going on? We saw some place going up. In the lagoon itself, like you can't step off of your back door and go right into the lagoon, go bed. Property going up at the edge of the lagoon.
So we know some of the, we did some of the homework that you're talking about there.
Yes.
There's a company called Blue Lagoon Jamaica Limited. When you really check the land agency, that's one of the big company that is showing up to own big swaths of land around the lagoon. All right. The name, you don't see the name as who is the owner of the Blue Lagoon Jamaica Limited. So that needs now, you have to go through company records to start investigate, because it's not nobody's name there. Companies that such as, Coal Harbor Limited, exists around the lagoon, Blue Waters Limited, Blue Coral Limited, Lockstone Holding Limited. So all of these entity that own the land around the lagoon. You don't see no names. When you check the land registry,
What? So you see, so Ratty, sorry to cut you, Ratty, you see what I'm doing? These are all signs, are mark signs, Herb and Ratties. These are mark signs of these same scammers who going around when them doing land and thing, them biting at them kids' name and then put some title and some limited. Them don't use them personal name. We see it happen all over in Jamaica, where people have built place, and when you look, me use my son, just some letters off of one and the next one, and then make a company. I'm go around and make a next company, a year limited. Where them limited company, when them farm, you see when them company the farm, by the way, when it come into existence.
Yeah, so that is the records that we're trying to track down right now.
But it's supposed to be clear at the land agents and everything for say it come into when it register, when these limited company register, we track it down at the company thing the title to. We can't track them, So you have with them register company title, because it's a limited company. That means you can go there and track it and see whenever 2020 or 2021, and then you find name right there.
You can find name, but one other thing we also find,
yes,
that the company there is actually owned by a foreign company. So a company own a company. That is, now you have to go track that down because it's not registered in Jamaica.
Make work kick up more dust. You can come out here, so we are right today work kick up more dust about that. So we want you to try that for us and make we have some record of it. It's serious. That's serious. Remember Jamaica, we have fight for with a business, them can't go around we, Yeah, man, so the rebel they right they say, You understand? Yes, man, be there, man. You understand? But these things, if you set down and take note. So all these limited company, we go the company with them register companies, the register company office, and then you search that also. Yeah? So it must show us something. And can you imagine that mean you are telling me say no, these companies are them are parent companies overseas, maybe.
Absolutely.
That's strange.
So this is why we think in the interest of the public, this is why like public defender needs to get involved in these things, because remember the Blue Lagoon is a national monument. All right. And so a national monument of a significance to the heritage of Jamaica. Mm-hmm. So, this is of public interest. And this is why it's really alarming that, the powers to be have not moved to really use them powers to really just take the land. They can do it. The government can do it.
Of course, you can't take any land. Look this, if government, all right, so we know this. You run a highway, you have some land. You might not want to say it, but it more, it more beneficial for the public interest. So the government will say, okay, I'm going to run it through this, I have to pay you, but I'm going to run it through this. What you going to do? I'm going to run it through it. But them have to pay you. Them have to compensate you. Them can thief it. But if it's beneficial for the country, him can use it. Now round the island, you can't have no one. I tell you, say you must have access to the beach. And you're not supposed to even have land front tight where you don't make. You suppose same like when you have land anywhere else and then you make road, you make access to it. As a matter of fact, your boundary is supposed to they are a distance from the beach. You're not supposed to run after the beach that come here perennial as I tell a man. So well, the beach are mine. I say when you have land, when you have beach, or you get for one beach. What kind of food that you have? Number one, you never compensate them as much as you got with 2,000 acre land you talk about your one beach.
But you know something, Wayne. Yes. I mean, some of these land, them boundaries is in the sea, And when you look
wrong too, But anyway, got to
it's the surveyor pegged them in the sea.
So that is out of order.
Okay, I mean, so it trust me, it does exist. But what you're saying,
you have to redraw back those boundaries because you cannot them know you're not supposed to do it. But this is how them want to take the sea where you cannot take, because if you do that, you put a country at risk. Yes. Any pirate can come in with anything, gun, everything. That means me have 100 acre. And me are carrying gun, dynamite, drugs and everything, and no police can't come from my land because am I one and the beach am mine. It can't work. It does wrong.
It wrong, but
Every sovereign nation know it's wrong. And any government we're into these things and make them do it. Them is pirate government. I want to deal with them. Not so ratty.
Well, I'm glad you called for me because
Turn up your mic.
yeah, glad you called for me because I'd like the doc for explain to your audience about or draw the line between the Prescription Act of 1882 and the Beach Control Act of 1956, doc?
1956.
Right. And then bring us forward to where we are now. But before the doc say anything, I just want to point out one thing, that in the Beach Control Act of 1956, under the heading Protected Areas, Section 7, paragraph 4, you were talking to the doc about what should have been, and the doc was telling you what is, right? You were saying to him that we should have general rights for all beaches.
Yes.
And he's saying to you, yes, he agrees, but the Beach Control Act says otherwise. Now, in this section I just quoted in the subsection, it says the minister have the right, the stroke of a pen, to change everything that is prohibited in this act. So all of the things what them say you cannot do, it gives the minister the right to say, I will overrule the act. And then when you go back and you look and say, well, who is that minister? Because remember, this happened before independence, So I don't know if we'd have a minister of beaches. I don't know. But when you go back and you look at you look in the definition in the same act as to who is the minister. It says the minister means the minister responsible for beach control. Who is that? Well, the doc just gave you a relatively sound answer when he says, look, all of this have to go through NEPA, and NEPA is based in the office of the Prime Minister, and therefore, by extension, the Prime Minister is the minister that they're referring to. But doc, I'd like you to draw that line from me. I'd like you to explain to the audience why is it that, or do you believe NEPA should stay where it is or it should go somewhere else?
Make want you draw something for me. I'm gonna show you now and see if you can draw it up, Ratty and Herb. This is from the JIS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beach Control Authority.
Yeah.
If you can draw it up right now, and make us read through this way. You see, because remember before 62, before independence, we know so we have the 56 thing where they might draw up. Now, this where them draw up. You can draw it up, Herb, Ratty.
Now look for it.
Beach Control Authority. Make us show you again, JIS. Turn on your mic, Herb.
Yeah, when I tried to go to it, is that it shut on the page because
Right.
it was
The Beach Control Authority was established under the Beach Control Act to control and use of the foreshore so as to advance on a fair basis the interests of development commercial enterprises and particularly the hotel industry, the interests of the public who have a right to have places for recreation, to have the means of access to the sea for their own amusement, and for the interests of the fishermen, which must be protected and developed. And this from JIS, that's why I ask if we dry it up. Because if this is what me just say, you says 56 and this is a JIS, I know JIS after that, from JIS after the 62. Now, if them have this, and we have the rights, why them have people still take up we beaches then? No why you dry it up. So this
No, give it to me again.
again.
Give it to me. Wait, your beach what?
Sita, and this is for JS. Look on it, Sita. Now I have photocopy and send it to you right now. Yeah.
Right. No worry.
You find it?
I look for it.
Yeah.
More you look on it. That's a JS. Remember photocopy. Remember just send one of these to the whole trip. Let me just send it to all of you.
When it clearly says maintaining and developing beaches for the benefit of the public.
Okay. And what? And we finish read it.
the protection of existing beaches where possible, the establishment of new ones, acquiring beachlands for the use and benefit of the public, ascertaining the needs of the public in relation to the beaches and making provisions for them, the granting of license for use of the foreshore and or floor of the sea for commercial or private purposes. That's the functions of the authority that I just mentioned.
Yes. But to tell you, we can send this one back to you from JIS, right? So it have some other things there. But me still ask why them have the hotel if you have a right for the beaches and them have the hotel right in front of the beaches, and then when our people want to go to the beach, they say, hey, you can't come through the gate, you know.
Well,
For foreigners, you know.
The big lie is that everything they mention is for the public.
And who is the public? It could be the tourists that come and most people there.
Yeah,
it could be where you are not to people them out of this.
Yeah. So that all of the beach control activity falls under NEPA, because the Beach Control Act of 1956 is the legislation that regulate the entire coastal space in Jamaica. All right. And what you're reading there is also captured in the Beach Control Act, that they should do these things for the public. All right. But Premier, the document states that no one have any right in or over the foreshore, which is vested in the
send this to him now. All right, let me send this to her.
Right. So the Beach Control Act is the legislation of 1956 that regulate the entire coastal space. But there are provisions within the Beach Control Act of 56, right, that says, the minister can do all these things, but they don't do it.
I just send something to you. Read it, Dr. Taylor. So me just send it to all three of you. And this is from the JIS. So so this after 62. This is what them I tell you now. But yes, still them I do some breaches and I do something. You understand? I'm for all them accountable. Just read that. Read that right. Yeah. Ratty, read it.
Yeah, no, read it already. Read it already.
Okay.
No, Doc, I don't want to call it Doc.
Yeah, no. The Beach Control Authority was established under the Beach Control Act.
Yes,
so this is the same act that we're talking about.
Yes. So read the authority now when them just tell us. When them just tell us. But them do something wrong.
Yeah, well, to control the use of the foreshore so as to advance on a fair basis the interests of the developing commercial enterprise, and in particular hotel industry, the interests of the public who have the right to have places for recreation.
For recreation?
Yes.
Right, okay.
The means of access to the sea for their own amusement and for the interests of fishermen, which must be protected and developed.
So, and yes, still them go around that?
They're going around that because they're
going around that.
Yes, they're going around it, and they can go around it because the Act of 1956, basically, you see what I said here, that you should have a right. Now, so when you talk about right, and this is one of the distinctions that we're making, they have right, which is general rights, and you have conditional rights. So the Beach Control Act is giving you conditional right, because this document speaks to the fact that the authority was established under the Beach Control Act. And the Beach Control Act is what the authority takes its guidance from. So when they mention right here, they're talking about that customary right, or that permission.
And for your amusement and for fishermen, and it's supposed to. So it'll tell you what, but them not doing nothing, them not holding up nothing under this, nothing at all.
Well,
just a thief land.
What?
And a capture. Okay.
All right, hold on. Let me give an explanation to this.
Yes.
Because I love reading.
Yes.
Yeah, man. And me have a personal thing with me who said that if anything more than a page, you can always find loopholes around it. Now,
all right.
The thing they're talking about, where you say this thing where you just send me, Beach Control Authority, what it doesn't say, right, is that it was established in the Beach Control Act of 1956 under Section 10, right? And under Section 11, here's what it says. It says, subject to the provisions of sections 3, 4, 9, and of subsection 2. Now, if you go back and read 3, 4, 9, and 2, that's exactly what the doctor talk about. We prohibit you from doing all of them things. So on one hand, them say...
And then you have subsection 10 now, I tell you this. But
Yeah,
they
so-
might limit you.
Right. So what they must say is that they must say, okay, we have 3, 4, 9, and 10, right? And everything else, the beach control authority can deal with, but it's subject to this. And when I'm talking is that crown lands and private ownership and all of that, the beach control authority have no jurisdiction over that. None.
Even the crown land, them know what's supposed to cut up and give to the people, them know, because this crown land thing, but they must say even the 60 years and thing where we are looking on. Anyway, them are think about republic now. So you know the crown land, you know your people them go to our people them slave and mash up for these things. It should have passed on to our generation now. Not you.
Absolutely, it should be, you know. But as Rattigan points out, everything comes back to the Control Act.
Yes.
Everything comes back to permission. So even when you have a public bathing beach, right? That public beach is set up that gives you permission. All right. So that is how it's set up. When you have a fishing beach that you are used, before 1956, that's customary use. And you have to go in the court to recognize that customary use. All right. So these are the things that we call conditional rights or customary rights. So what the act did not give us, which is what you're asking for, which is what I am asking for, is general rights, which basically say once the beach did it, nobody can stop you. You can't go there. Okay, and all the easement that exists that you used from donkey years ago, just walk over them. No hotel can stop you. No private villa can stop you. That's what we want, general rights. This act only deal with permission and customary rights, and it wraps everything up. Always come back to those section 3 and section 4 of the Beach Control Act that is restrictive. And then why the hotels them who don't own the beaches them have the power is because the act also allow the government, NEPA, NRCA to grant license for the beach. So you get a license, you apply to NEPA, you get a beach license, and that license allow you to exclude folks. This is why Puerto Rico and Fort Lawrence now, Fort Clarence now have private entity there that they have license to operate and they can exclude who they want to exclude. The hotel have all these licenses and them can exclude. So there's a lot of restriction this act created for exclusion of people.
Speaking about the Fort Clarence, yes, Talker, got you, Herb.
It all comes back to the Prime Minister, because if that clause that speak about the minister having control or the minister being in charge, NEPA is in the office of the Prime Minister, comes under that. So the Prime Minister is basically talking on both sides of his mouth, because he's saying nobody should be shut out from access to the lands. But the very agency under which his office controls is doing the opposite of what he's saying. Right?
Well, Herb, he said all Jamaicans should have access. He didn't say he's not addressing that Jamaicans are shut out. He said they should have access. Now,
should have.
So when I say we got to be very careful about these things, and why is because when people hear about rights, all right, and then when you look at rights, I'm trying to make the distinction here in the context of the Beach Control Act about conditional rights versus general rights. All right. Inalienable rights, which rights where you're just born with, nobody can take that away from you. So the freedom of movement, built into an historical document called the Public Trust Document that says you can't own the air, you can't own the sea. So these things are supposed to be for humanity to enjoy. But all of these mechanisms that are created in terms of ownership of land is the means of independence. Okay, so when you own a land before a beach and you run your wire fence, you can't walk over the man land when him drawing wire fence, not unless the government mandate that so. And that's what we're saying, is that we need easement over these lands to get to the beach, because beach access is land rights, and that's what we don't have is that land rights. And when we do have the land rights, as Rattigan pointed out, which you have to be occupying that space for a minimum of 20 years. So that's what he's talking about, the Prescription Act of 1882 that says, like the ones them out of Old Pera, all right? The ones them in a Mammee Bay, all right? The ones them where down at Burwood or Old Steamers or, you know, any of the beaches, them like Winifred beaches. They've been using these spaces for, you know, for hundreds of years, okay? The minimum is 20. And then the government comes in, you know, UDC comes in and says, no, you can't continue to do that, or a private entity. Now you have to go into the courts and prove to them that you have been there for more than 20 years. And then the judge say, all right, you can continue to be there for perpetuity. And then you have to write now on his land title an easement. And so we are doing that because that is the only tool in the box that really left for us to use. Otherwise, the whole coastline is going to be fenced off.
And we're not allow that too, you know. You see, we are so not allow that.
And you know the interesting thing about it, under the Prescription Act, it says that 20-year period, if you can establish it, that it said that right is deemed absolute and indefeasible. What that means is that them can't pass no law after voiding that. Yep. None. So if you can show that, hey, this place has been used for 20 years without any interruption. I mean, of course, you have to go court and prove it. But once that's proven, then them can't take it away. But you know what?
But them take it away. Because you know what them do? Them go up Portland. This guy feels them run Portland and him have money. And a lot of people, them take them place from them. And they put bucket, leeching them. Them take what people place from them.
Well, let me read what the Prime Minister said, right? Back in March 16th of this year, in his budget presentation. He said, all Jamaicans must have access to our beautiful beaches. Now, we had a discussion yesterday, and I was saying, for a Prime Minister to come out and say all Jamaicans must have access to our beaches, it suggests that all Jamaicans don't have access. Right.
You tell you know, if you see, I'm worried, you know, it tell us that we don't have access.
Right.
And because, by the way, before you say something ratty, them take Kenny Benjamin and give
Puerto Rico.
Fort Currents or something. It not fix up. And right now, I charge $1,000 for go to the beach for big people and $500 for kids. You're kidding me?
Hold on, man. Let me give one better than that. They give him a long-term lease for Puerto Rico. And Doc, if I'm wrong, correct me. They give him a long-term lease. And I'm telling you this because Kenya and I talked about this, right? Them give Kenya a long-term lease for that beach there, right? And that beach, Puerto Rico, it fell in disrepair, right? Because the government, and we can't go through the history of funding and then, you know, them stop funding all of these public beaches. And so these private investors come over and them take it over and then give them long-term lease and they develop it. And I know the doc don't like the concept of development of beaches, and then like when they say they manage beaches, but conservation, right? But what happened is that particular beach on certain days is not open to Jamaicans.
For Jamaicans, yes. Yes.
It's not open.
I saw it. I have the video plate.
Yeah.
And then
you said to yourself, how could a government grant a lease with that provision in there? How?
For tourists.
Because the thing about it is that it's not like the Jamaicans are saying, we want to go on the beach for free. They're like, we are willing to pay. I'm saying, no, man. No, we don't want you on the beach.
But you know what hurt me? Some of these people who, you know, go in as tourists, you know, maybe them just want to go away. Some of them are pedophile, you know. And some of them are, no, you just think, no, me talk straight. I not joke me I make. Some of them do all kind of things. See, man, they them pick up man and Iron Man and they yesterday trouble little girl and them thing there. So all kind of people go in and you treat them as like them are God and goddesses. And then treat your own people like them are some devil. You don't harass tourists. Which part you could have lived in your country now and then tourists come in, people come in and the government are look on you and harass tourists. Them I want to put out the visitor. They might protect you who live in your place in North America. And I may tell, in Jamaica, if you look on a tourist and say, hello, we have a tourist, police literally lock you up.
Let me finish a piece here. Can you find this piece interesting?
Yeah, man.
Just a few more sentences. Him said, this is all Jamaicans must have access to our beautiful beaches. This is without question. These beaches must be of a good quality and properly regulated to ensure safety, security, economic livelihood, and enjoyment for all citizens. All citizens. Our beaches are not only a source for recreation, but get this, but a significant element of our tourism and the fisheries sectors. You notice what I'm saying? Him never says a significant element of recreation, you know. Him just recreation. But when it comes to significant, him use that particular word for tourism and the fisheries section. So he said, so on to the people. And keep in mind that here it is that he's saying, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And he, with the stroke of a pen, can change all of this overnight. Now he said, the development of the beach access and management policy is advanced, and the document will be ready for tabling within the first quarter of the new fiscal year. Now, the doc made a point yesterday when he said, look, this spans, you know, both parties being in power. And he's absolutely correct. Because this beach access and management policy, the Gleaner reported that this was done. It was completed in 2017. Right? And here it is now. The Prime Minister just said this month that it will be ready for tabling within the first quarter of the new fiscal year. And
So
it's been finished since 2017.
In the first term when I run. From 2017.
It's finished from 2017.
2017. And he must say it does not do for the thing.
It just not going to know. So, but then one last point. You know, we talk about the Prescription Act of 1882 and the Beach Control Act of 1956. But one of the things that we need to focus on is that putting those two statutes aside, we now have, and the doctor, he educated me on this yesterday, that when you have a town and country planning authority, the policy that they put out is gazetted, which has the force and effect of law. And here's what it said. It said for Negril and Green Island, the local planning authority will not grant permission for any development on land adjacent to the line of high water mark that would preclude general public access to and along the foreshore. Which means that any development of land, the developer must create an easement for people to get to the beach.
Of course.
But that not happen.
Yeah. So
because them block off the whole long there. When you go down the grill, them block it off. So me I say these are the things that me I talk about. That means them a breach. That's the breach, and nobody address it.
That's a 7 mile stretch you're talking about.
The 7 mile stretch.
Right.
Nobody address it.
No, so this is where, I mean, and this is a very good program, because what we're doing right now is shining a spotlight on all these inconsistencies, and more than inconsistencies, but they're conflict, more than conflict, you know, they're abuses of power. I mean, that's what there are. So they're abusing the power because, you know, if, and I said, I will stand corrected if the office of the Prime Minister comes out and says, well, I'm not the head of NEPA, it's one of my minister without portfolio. And that would probably fall with Matthew Samuda because he speaks on environment. Okay. But it is the head of the minister. So we're leveraging that it is. And he comes out and he makes all these statements and he can fix them. And all these gazetted orders, which have been in there from, you know, the 2000, you know, 10, 15, you know, you name it, that really says all that Rattigan listed, and they violate all of that. All of it. So that's why it's very contradictory. It's very alarming. You know, I mean, it's a lie. It's blatant. I mean, disrespect to the, you know, knowledge and the intelligence of the Jamaican people who are aware of these issues, to say that the reason why we do not have these accesses to the space is not because you know, the provisions were not being, you know, made, okay, in this town and country planning. They said they were going to do these things, all right, but they did not do them, all right. And it's because of, you know, the abuse and the discriminatory nature of like the Beach Control Act and the policies. The policy that we have is to the economic policy of the country is riding on in respect to tourism, is riding on the Beach Control Act, because it's using that, I own the foreshore, so I could do what I want to do with it. I own the land that's adjoined the ocean, so I can lock everyone out. And so instead of the government proactively do things to really preserve and open up access, it's not doing so. So for the last 7 years, there have been no easement created, okay, for Jamaicans to access the foreshore. Yet still they're saying that they want to increase access. We only have 2.8 miles of public beach access in Jamaica as the public. Only 2.8. Jamaica
for 3 million people.
3 million people, but the coastline is 494 miles around the island.
That's for the tourists.
Okay, and only 3 miles
for the rest of
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now look at I don't know if the ones them out there really overs this thing, I don't know if them understand really what going on, sir. You cannot surrender the sovereignty of the country, okay, for any kind of economic model, because tourism have significant amount of leakage. It's probably 5 cents out of every dollar that stays into Jamaica from tourists.
That's
so
too
you
much.
cannot build a country upon tourism. All right, and then it's low paying jobs that exist in the tourist sector. If you're sure of fishing, you can make more money off of the fishing industry than you can make off of tourism. When COVID hit, we have more money, foreign exchange coming to the country from remittances, when you look at tourism.
From us, yes. Yes,
yeah.
From us.
So the policies are wrong.
Tourists get shut down in flat.
Yes.
Flat. Yes.
The policies are inconsistent. And I can preempt the Prime Minister to say, I have read your beach access management policy, and it's not going to do anything revolutionary for the Jamaican people. It's not going to open up. No, it's not going to open up any new access. Okay? Because they're not going to give you any general rights. Okay? Your rights are going to be now called qualified rights, which is the same things as permission and dependent upon next man. And I have something to tell my fisherman brethren them. In that beach access management plan, let me just take this one point up for you jump in.
All right.
They propose that they're going to reduce the number of fishing beaches.
That's
so
bad.
They're reducing the number of fishing beaches.
So the government, you're telling me that the government planning to cut the fishermen, reduce the fishing beaches to do what? You put out people out of job. You're going to put people out of job. That don't even make any sense. So you see why I tell us the country going back where Herb?
Yeah, here's the thing. That Beach Control Authority, when you try to look at certain parts of it, it takes you to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. And then it said this page has been shut down. Right? And you see notes on the page from Minister Samuda. So apparently, when they were doing the planning under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, under Samuda was when a lot of these policies were made, when they shut down access to beaches. Now they seem like they have shifted it since then. When did NEPA take over the management of the beaches? Or did they ever give it up?
No, I'm not sure when it falls on a NEPA. When NEPA assumes that right. Now it was the NRCA that is the regulator of the Beach Control Act of 1956, and the NRCA reports into NEPA. So NEPA takes over all that regulatory role for the Beach Control Act of 56, and then of course NEPA falls under climate change and economic job creation. But that ministry was dissolved in terms of cabinet reshuffle.
What year was that? It was dissolved. Remember?
I don't remember, but it was consolidated all in the office of the Prime Minister.
Okay.
So both the economic development and job creation and climate change, those are both in the office of the Prime Minister. Yes.
Yeah.
And so we have the issues with extractive industry, with bauxites and all these cockpit country mining. All right. And all of those permits have to come through NEPA. All right. And so, all of those regulations have to go back now to the minister. And who is the minister? So this is one of the big, shenanigans that is happening right here. There is a super, master editor, as we would call that in the scientific field. There's a master editor in the office of the prime minister that is editing a lot of things. All right. And it's not been edited in entirety in the benefit of the country. And I'm speaking in particular to the Beach Control Act of 1956 and access to beaches and rivers. It is not, because it can be simply changed so that stroke of a pen or using the Beach Control, using the Land Acquisition Act, you could really create these easements and the problem solved. In Blue Lagoon, the problem in Blue Lagoon can be solved. Easy, easy, easy. So I don't really understand what is the issue. Why is it not solved? That is the fundamental question that the public needs to be asking. We're asking that. And Jabem is actually challenging these things in the courts. And that's why we file, through Prescription Act for Mammee Bay, because I'm not the same situation that, almost happened, in Old Pera, which is still in a kind of precarious state because the land, all that, I guess it's like probably 2 acres of land around that is owned by Pernell Charles, who can run him wire fence any day, all right, and lock the public out. And that happened actually in Mammee Bay, that they run a wall and they lock the public out, despite the fisher folks there had land rights, because there's a parochial road behind a wall there that was created and lands, through the Mammee Bay, and Steertown Beach Recreational and Fishing Association that was set up, and all that rights, but yet still they wall it off, and aggressively JCF and private security come out there and shoot after the bridges them from down in the Mammee Bay who out there fight, because they want to defend them livelihood and defend them beaches. And the beach was a gazetted beach, MMM, Beach 47. So it was on the list. And here the crazy part of it too, the Beach Access Management Plan listed that beach as a beach, and it was protected. So how you have these walls built, how you have the government forces come, push back at the citizen from a gazetted beach. And we say gazette on a law, so it's recognized by the country. In a many scientific publication, you see the beach. In a government document, you see the beach. In a World Bank document, you see the beach. And then still allow to push the people off. I don't understand these things. Somebody needs to be accountable for it. And everybody is silent. It's silent. I have not heard any of these government ministers come out and address the cases of all these things. I don't hear them.
Okay, Ratty, you get that look a while?
Yeah.
It's what them do is amendment. It was amendment.
I'm gonna take it out right now.
Yes.
So we're having these fundamental issues that needs to be dealt with. And we're asking the Jamaican people right now, asking our brothers and sisters.
You think that was the time them take it over, NEPA take it over? When you get it, it's if you get it. Yes.
Yeah. So while they are on that scan there, right? The Jamaican people have to raise them voice right now and advocate for this change and all folks accountable. You know what I mean? Someone really have to really be held accountable for this issue around, beach access in Jamaica. It's not something that is going to be sustainable. Yeah, it needs to be sorted out. The massive issue. Someone sent a note to me today that despite the public is locked out of Blue Lagoon, you still have people kayaking in the Blue Lagoon, driving the boats in the Blue Lagoon. And all of these people are people who live in the area in the Blue Lagoon. So, you lock the public out, but the ones them who are the wealthy that live in the Blue Lagoon can still do these things. And the Portland, Parish Council said basically them close the lagoon. How can they close the lagoon to, John public, but they allow the wealthy who live there to still continue to use the space?
Well, essentially, it's become a private, space for the very wealthy. It's their space.
That's bad, though. That's bad. You get the 30?
Yeah, man, I look fit. I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was a what? That was an amendment or something? That is when NEPA take it over?
Yeah, but this doesn't look like it's an amendment to the provisions that we're talking about.
Okay.
The general rights. This just talks about the fact that it goes back to the same Beach Control Act licenses.
Yes.
And it talks about all the agencies involved, NEPA.
This is when NEPA take it over, right? NEPA. That was the time, right? Okay.
In 2001, NEPA took it over.
Okay, 2001. Okay.
Right. I mean, and we talk about NEPA the other day. NEPA, a premier environmental entity within the government, should not really sit in the office of the Prime Minister. All right. It needs to be its own ministry. We are in an era right now where, we're seeing a lot of global event around, climate change, and around biodiversity loss. NEPA needs to really, have its own ministry because it's dealing with the ecological heritage of the nation. And so it must give them a lot of powers in order to do a good job to safeguard this thing for the future. So when you bundle it into a ministry which is dealing with economic, and development,
growth and job creation, the office of the Prime Minister, I don't even understand that because some people are up and down and no one. Some people control that growth and job creation like Warmington and some of the guys there be a stupidness. I think the one they give license for carrying ganja the other day, Arbinil, give license, they sue them give license for carrying import ganja from Canada. That was a joke.
You see,
yes.
So the problem with this is that this is just saying that NEPA has the right. NEPA is like an umbrella agency,
yes.
Right? And under NEPA, you have the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, the Town Planning Department, and the Land Development and Utilization Commission, right? And all of this established in 2001.
Yes.
And then they passed an act, Natural Resource Conservation Authority Act. And under that, they said you can get a beach license through from NRCA, which is the parent organization. Yes. Which is NEPA is a parent organization, and they talk about grant license, make provisions to the public, acquiring beaches, blah blah blah. But still, it comes back to this. Comes back to that.
Yeah.
The Beach Control Act. Everything comes back to this because this hasn't been repealed.
No. You can't around that.
No, and so whatever they're doing here, right? Some of it is in contravention to the Beach Control Act of 1956 and also the Prescription Act of 1882. So, but what happened? I think the problem is that we're sleeping with our eyes wide open. We're not paying attention, and so all of these things are happening, and nobody's asking questions. We just kind of accept it.
Yes.
And through organizations like yours now, people are being made aware of what the laws are and what their rights are. And so JABEM is at the forefront of bringing the government to account for what's going on. In fact, Doc, you mentioned yesterday to me that there was or maybe it was during sometime last week, where you mentioned that there was a development in Runaway Bay. And that when you look at their proposal, it says private beach.
Yes.
And you say, how is that possible?
Yes.
How is that possible?
Because you own the land that adjoins the beach. So once you own the land, understand this, the whole thing is around land rights. So if if you own that land, you can draw your wire fence and say your beach is private.
But what about the people who say, hey, my grandfather, my father, my great-grandfather, they used to access this beach and they access it for more than 20 years.
Yeah,
So how come now it's private?
So that person now must go to court to show that. See, this is what the law doesn't do. And this is what the government should be doing.
Tell me something though. Let me just ask you something. So you have a village of people live here and them fishing right there before you come build your hotel here. Why we have to go to court when we are fishing right here so for centuries? So where we're going to it's a village, for Christ's sake. So where we're going to go, what happened to the government? That it does play when we're going to prove. When you have some fish and you have fishermen for generation and people use the beach and access it. So what we are going to prove, what we are going to the court for?
Here's where it gets interesting.
Yes.
Let's say that some people live on capture land.
Yes.
And them they're close to the beach, them have access to the beach. And now that land has been sold. The private owner, the purchaser is gonna say, look, you guys are squatters, you have to get off the land. Right? Except if they can show adverse possession. That we've been paying taxes and but let's say that's not the case. And them say, no, you have to come off of the land. The question then is, okay, they've been using the beach for 20 years. Do they have a right of easement to get to the beach?
Of course.
But you have to go to the courts. The system is structured that way. When them don't, it's no government don't come
right.
to rescue.
Good when you come tell me this now, Dr. Taylor, because what we are gonna do, we're gonna talk to the people, all these people, in the east, in a Waterhouse, in East Kingston, to one them thing. And we're gonna deal with what we deal with. Because there is no way you're gonna see 500 people come out or 1,000 people come out and you tell me we have no access to a beach. That for stop. It needs to stop.
That's what Jamaica said.
That's why too much piracy are going in Jamaica because of some pirate around Jamaica, If a man have your beach and cut it off, me can tell you this, all kind of things can come in. Gun, all kind of illegal contraband. Because them have money and them have access to yacht and big boat, all kind of things are coming and speedboat, and so them carrying them coke. You understand? So them I want the little man them pan the front line, they start telling about private. You can't not name private beach in Jamaica. The whole of this is stupidness. You understand? No hotel not supposed to own the beach neither. None. It's wrong. We have to do something about it, Dr. Taylor.
So we're glad that you're shining a spotlight on this and using this platform to let the people them know to them need to wake up, because what Jabem is doing is that we are pulling them into the courts to protect these spaces because we don't have any other mechanism to do so right now, because the government and under the Beach Control Act of 1956, the government supposed to do that work, but the government is not doing that work effectively for the people. So therefore it ends up into the hands of private citizens, to really do that. So when the Prime Minister comes out and says we must have access, he should have protected access. So once, even if a man buy a piece of land, okay, that adjoins the ocean, and say, okay, easement, people have to get on. Here's the other piece. So Chinese Harbour Engineering Company will build highways across Jamaica, right? The government transfer a piece of land to them. This is less than a year, probably less than 7 months ago. That land is located just east of Old Fort Bay. You know where the highway dump you out when you take the highway and come out of Kingston and it dump you out right
so
down.
Let me get some nice piece of land me here.
Yes, right to the right of that going towards Ocherius. Now it was a UDC owned property. So if the government was about access to beaches for its people, the government would have created an easement over that already, so the public would still continue to use it, because that's one of my childhood beaches. We call it Brownlow Beach. But instead, they dump up the gate and they put on a big, sign that says no trespassing, no bathing, no swimming, no fishing. This is a sign that was put up by NEPA to block out the Jamaican people, and then the same government agency come in and tell you that you must have access to your beaches them.
So please do something for me. Do a video for that, man. And when we're invite you back, I'm gonna show them video that to the people, them, you know. And you need them to, you know, because we are gonna quote and challenge them, you know, challenge them on everything. We need these things before them go take it off. Cause them watch us, you know. So then we go take it off. So make sure if you have somebody can video it tomorrow, video it. All those places with them are no trespassing and just video all of these things. Keep them. Yeah, we have to file them. Yes, man. We have to have them in file.
Yeah.
In docket. Yes, we have to.
You know what? Yesterday, right, we had a conversation with the doctor. And I asked him about 17 beaches, and he added another 2. Some of them I'd never heard of these beaches, right? So I'd say most of them I've never heard of. But all of these beaches are on the verge of being in private hands where Jamaicans will not have access to these beaches. And let me name some of them. Mammee Bay Beach, Little Duns River Beach, Blue Lagoon, Peach Beach, Reggae Beach, Members Beach.
Reggae Beach, well on. Reggae Beach, them go privatized.
Privatized, yes.
What's true?
Members Beach, there's a beach out at Roxborough. UDC Beach, which I was surprised to hear that it was given to CHEC. Long Bay Beach, Bob Marley Beach, Bluefields Beach, Little Bay Beach, Alligator Pond, Old Pera, Burwood Beach, and then Doc, you mentioned, you think you give me another 2.
I'll give you one more, Point Hill, which is down there in Westmoreland, which is owned by Petrojam.
Petrojam.
So all of these spaces, the major issues with them is land rights. Okay, there is no land rights, and so, you know, who not have no land rights, them land rights is precarious. So when you take a place like Burwood and look at it, the land surrounding Burwood Beach is privately owned. All right, so therefore that private man, and he's actually contesting that it's not a government beach. So even though it's listed, him a contest it, and if him win him contest, the beach is gone. You know, the big uproar that happened out in in Bull Bear, Sugarloaf Mountain, whole wide stretch where Bob Marley Beach is a component of that. A company coming called Wolf Group Limited purchased all the land that wraps around that space.
You see that?
And we have to get protest out there because
hold on that. So the beach now, you notice when you go cross, if you go to Bob Marley Beach there, you see Sugar Hill. When you go cross, you notice them put a little bridge over there. Them never have that bridge. You see that little place the way you see a metro graphic land. Or over some 30 years we are DJing at that land there, you know, with ignorance and all that. Remember me there everywhere and me tell them some me had a win, you know. So me could have go put claim on this. So because me down there good.
20 years?
So when rain fall, the place flood, you can't go over there.
Remember the 20 years, you know, the 20 years.
Me say over 30 we are go down there for
uninterrupted.
My brethren live down the same way.
Oh, so your brethren have rights.
We can call him now. Remember me there everywhere, you know. So we used to DJ out there out of 9 Mile.
Yes, so you know, Wildman and the Thomas family, them out on the beach out there, so. Yeah, man.
I'm the winner now. If me got you some things, me don't want to talk when you're still because they might say the win. They might have afraid to talk for the winning things. But let me tell you this. This up, I will be there for more than nearly 40 years. Yeah? When we are DJ pan sound, Metro Graphic out there, so from like 7, 8 o'clock till the next morning, you know. Yeah? Ignorance, we used to depend on thing the arrow sound, ignorance, yeah, Watermelon, Burn the Diamond, Danny Kiwe dead, Steady Ranks, and enough more, Juna, the whole of them, and Metro Graphic, big up yourself. See? Long time. Can you remember we go every parish, you know, man sound, you know. No everywhere, you know. So when me talk, them know, so when me talk on a joke business, me talk with more people, man. And my link them strong. So we are the win. So me I go up there and I use them place and down them place so long. But you can tell me, say, no, I don't them, I bet you them still live. Still live right now. See? I know them want to go dive vessel out the beach, them now put it in a private hand. Them not easy. Them not easy, man. Yeah, man.
So I want to read something that I read, you know, on Rattigan program, you know, First Light. And It basically sets up the problem that we're having right now, because there's never been any internal reparation in Jamaica. You notice when emancipation happened, in 1838, or all of the slave owners them get compensation, all right, and England pay them off, and it's actually just what they them finish, repay the debt, all right. So what happened in 1836? All right, the Secretary of State for the colonies, a colonialist named Charles Grant, him issue a circular that basically requiring that the government in each of the colonies, all of them Caribbean islands, to implement a policy of the British government to prevent the occupation of any crown lands by persons not possessing any proprietary title, to them, and to affix on them a price so high that them cannot buy the land. Okay, so that kind of condition was set since 1836 to prevent the descendants of enslaved Africans to own any property in Jamaica. So them say don't allow them to really occupy any land, and any land that them want to buy, make it so pricey that them can't buy it. And that continues unto today. So they have been never been.
You know what hurt though? From 1836 to this are what 23, 33, 36. That's what 16 more years. You know how much years that? And nearly 200 years. Them people they dead and gone. We all write a different policy. We never not follow them. You see, when we're voting some guys, remember how we're doing different things. We're voting some guys and then we start with them accountable,
There you
we
go.
change up that. None of them not alive. When him talking to him irrelevant. Him born them white. Him this slave. Everybody was alive in 1836. Them not there. Them not exist. Animal, everything not exist. I just some of them grave exist. If you can find it. So right now them not supposed to use but that. And go him right. It's not even relevant to me. We for all government accountable now. And say change this and we start pressure them. Remember, when you vote, you are a man at work, and you still make him turn dictator to you and make him worship some big boys. It not work again under our watch. So we there, see the man of the wilderness, this, see, I don't want to get, see, and you say, I wish man this front of me, see the man in front of me. We not around prone here, man. And the rebel, and this are Herb Nels, listen, my man. We're not playing with them. We are coming after them. You understand? None of them think they're nearly 200 years. 100 and enough years gone. So no care where him right that null and void in my book. You understand? Them they can't change with just a stroke of a pen. And remember who you put in. And when you start holding them accountable, them know say, hey, you not getting a job, You not getting a work. And you can't fight against what people them, You understand? You cannot do this. We have to change it up. We have to change it up, man. Because them break them band a long time, but what them do, them give it to them rich friend. So when them tell us a crown this or who did write this, and them rich friend, them people that they done gone a long time. They have nothing more than for go on again. Gone. You understand? But we there now. We have to hold them accountable and change up this. That's too ratty.
Well, absolutely 100%. Let me just ask Doc a question here, because Doc, I read some documents here, and some people have the documents in front of me, and just have to apologize to some of the listening audience, because some of them write me and say it don't look like me, I pay attention, but they wouldn't know say they have all of them documents here, in front of me, and on my lap. So sometimes them say me sit down and I look and things like that. I listen to the conversation and I look for the points them. So that I come across this document here, and what I ask you? Yeah, hear me, Doc?
Yeah, man, loud and
clear. Look on a document concerning, and I really don't like even comparisons between Jamaica and anybody else, because whatever the problem is in Jamaica, I feel Jamaica should just deal with the problem without having to look how. And I say, well, like poverty, for example, them say, well, in Nicaragua or some other country, for example, people are suffering. I don't want to hear that. That now full my belly in Jamaica, right? But what I like you to do is, and I don't want to steal the thunder, that's why I'm going to ask you to do it for the people, is to talk about beach access in other Caribbean islands. What is it like with the foreshore and access and land rights?
Yeah, man. I mean, it is more progressive. And it's progressive in the sense that let's just take Barbados, you know what I mean, which is becoming a light, a beam in the Caribbean right now. And Jamaica and Barbados are part of CARICOM, you know what I mean? And so we don't hope that Jamaica would fall in line with the policies that CARICOM, most CARICOM state, you know what I mean, as a common market. Barbados allow, free access, general rights of access to all its beaches. So no matter if a hotel bill up, you know what I mean, a villa bill up, or a wealthy man own a property, they can't block people from accessing the beach. Okay, so they really, that policy. The same in Cayman, same in Bahamas, Aruba, you name it, Trinidad, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Nevis, all these Caribbean islands allow general access to the space. They don't block anybody. Cuba, just name it. And, Mexico has a very progressive legislation around the entire coast of Mexico. I think it's 65 feet off the high water mark is what them call the federal protection zone. Okay, so that's not only dealing with beach, it also deals with land. So the rangers them who protect the space can drive around the entire coast uninhibited. Okay, so these countries that are within our sphere allows for general access. You know what I mean? And we don't. And the question is, why Jamaica don't do these kind of things? Why all our Caribbean neighbors, you got Barbados like myself, we'll go up on any beach in a Barbados. You know what I mean? Nobody no bother you. You just go through.
No one. Two flying fish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Go St. Michael's. I got to Christchurch and them place and flying fish and just go relax about it. That's nice place, not true?
Yes,
I have a place too, man. Remember say me had the win, Me not try to understand. Me just send a document. Me could look upon some of the people them who own the lagoon. Open that document. Me send it to you to that. Open the one. We just press the thing and open it. Me just see one of them here, so Blue Lagoon register. All right, business. Me see one of them have something in Wayne Chin, secretary. The one with down and you see the title full, it's a Blue Lagoon, Jamaica. That limited. Wayne Chin. Active company from 11th of July 2019. Then I tell you say the next one, the 2018 active. And I see the one of them are active, You know see it?
Yes.
Open the one and I say, all right. I do it fast here because we want to see them name. We not around. We not play around here,
Why Mr. Lonesome, the man, terrible man.
You know what?
Well, before you go no further, let me just say this, right? Isn't it amazing that them close Blue Lagoon because one of the reasons is that them say them don't have public facilities there. But I have a brethren who this morning tell me say that's not true because I'm saying him go there and him eat and him going at the gift shop and then me look on the to them all have Blue Lagoon pub. Or you gonna have a pub and don't have restroom?
So where is it? Where
Blue Lagoon tours there? And it go right back. Just press each number and they tell you.
It's a restaurant. So Blue Lagoon restaurant. Yeah, you have a restaurant.
And you see one who depend on the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah, no. May I ask the question? How you have a restaurant and you don't have a restaurant and a bar and you have no public facilities?
So you see them and them boys. So you have this thing and now, So just when it down, I look on the one them will just come up even nearer to you so now. What make them push off the people? Because you have some long time, but them never push off the people. So on the 2019 again, business, Blue Lagoon tours. This are the 7th of November 2019. The one that 1996 it removed. A company they remove. Blue Lagoon Villas Limited. So I go on the next page. The next company removed there. Anything for 87 that remove. A company for 82 it active. Saying? So you can't see the whole of them and they just press 2 and go on it. And I go see where there are 2. 13, let me see the register. Expire. That's the one 83. 86 business active. 97. Who hold it? Blue Bee Limited. And I be a company will listen up. Bluegrass Pub. Renewed. Okay. Close 2019, 2021 register. So them have 2021, 2020, but 2021 not pandemic time. So them have fine time for register, and 2022 them have time for register company.
Well, I mean,
Blue Acre Farm. Okay, this is a Blue Acre Farm at Blue Lagoon. I'm gonna see this. Okay, yeah man, I see you man, see that? Blue Adventure Tour Operators Limited. While it's active company. December 2022. That so 2021. So what on? So the appear company and put one Blue Lagoon. Can't see the one right there and there. No?
well, that's exactly
And see the one you can't see the one of them right now. You wanna see them? When I run through them, press 2, press 3, press 4, press 5. See one of the thing where you want there. So this is what them are do down them in a tell us at some pirate them brother.
Yeah, one of the things we have to be careful with this is that these well, look at registrations, and so a man might call some place where he might have called, I might call it Blue Lagoon, but it's not really there Blue Lagoon. You know what I mean?
Just look on the top of Blue Lagoon. Just go up, call up at the top, and it show you right there.
Okay, well on.
Yeah, so we know that the company called Blue Lagoon Jamaica Limited has significant amount of properties around the Blue Lagoon. That one I'm familiar with because, you know, we have seen through National Land Agency, the owners of it though. All right, while it lists a secretary here, you know, there's more to that than just one secretary. So, I mean, some scrutiny is required to really pull all these records. But this is what we are saying. This is the remit of the government of Jamaica supposed to do that, because the government of Jamaica is the one who supposed to really be sourcing whatever land that they want to put the infrastructure that they said they need. All right, so you can do this in your you know, in your studio right there to pull this information up to say that, you know, these are the individuals, and they said that they're in discussion with landowners around the lagoon to get a lease, to really lease space. Now you can imagine when in the original time, all of this land around the lagoon would have been owned by the government. All right, and how did the government sell off all these lands around the lagoon? So the government in 2023 would have to now lease back a piece of property to put a bathroom on it. I mean, how is that? Oh, I mean, how comes we get there? So it's just bad management. Okay, and there's a lot of inconsistencies, and I think it would be a good exercise, and I think this is why the public defender should get involved to really look at all, because these property change hands over time. Before this company owned it, there may have been other owners before it, and so we can go all the way back in terms of land record when the government owned it and see the transfer of this property through many hands, and that's why you need scrutiny. So, I mean, you know, this is phenomenal that you're bringing forward this, and we're asking, you know, within the sphere here, because, you know, a lot of ones, you know, watch your program, that the public defender should take the record, look at the record and says, we are 6 months now and the lagoon cannot open because they need bathroom facility. So if they never get any property to lease to really put a bathroom, that means that the lagoon will what? Lock for life.
That is a sham. Because all those property around the lagoons, them have bathroom facilities and all kind of things. Them have lagoon tour, them have all kind of things. All those things around the lagoons. Them just out there and just say, hey, you want so nice, you know, you say that, you know, millionaire paradise, you know, we can't set it up in and spoil, you know, not touch, you know. We are going to control this. That have to stop. And we have to reverse these things. We have to. We can't
hold on a second. Hold on there.
Yes.
You see this Blue Lagoon Jamaica 2 Limited?
Yes.
Wayne Chen secretary?
Yes.
You know who that is?
No, I think me hear the name Chin.
Say that again, Ratigan.
Wayne Chin.
If you look, the second one
yeah,
on
Wayne
the
Chin,
list.
yes.
Yes.
When you hear him name, and one of them guy there, one of the big boys, them, you know.
That's Michael Lee Chen's half brother.
Oh, yeah, okay.
With the supermarket chain, you know, Michael Lee Chen based in Portland.
Yes, yeah, man.
Right. And you know, the Super Plus, I think the Super Plus supermarket.
They sell it out, them did have it.
That they have one left.
Oh.
This is a gentleman who owns it, and now he's been put on several boards. Several boards.
It's unbelievable. So you see, when we go through this, and by the way, you don't say you don't say that Kenny Benjamin too. Where you see them give like Hope Garden for run and give him some beaches. I saw the police them all over the place right now. Protect with our resources. Remember, we pay the police and the soldiers them, right? And them done already shot. Now when the beryllium going to beryllium money trucks going to deliver the money now. The road them are blocked off by police and soldier. So if the government will get kickback on this, so if the government follow them, why the government just take the job then and make the police them go deliver the money and take the money they pay the police and soldier them? Why our money? Why we the taxpayers' money? I watch them and Kenny Benjamin I pocket the money same way. And I got them. By the way, and them just come up with name the metaverse. Where the government did want to go in a partnership with them for protect Jamaica. Because them very advanced. Me show you the metaverse. Me never show you that. Never show you the metaverse. I need to show you the metaverse.
No, this is a program you do with the colonial.
Yes. So you see a part of the metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beryllium, the metaverse. So the man of the metaverse, and I tell you, say, well, at the new way, you know. And then you have the minister, I think, the same one from in Portland. I tell you, say, you know what, I see nothing else.
Well, you know, and Herb is very familiar with this because Herb know this gentleman here, right, from South Africa. And we have spoke to the government and private industry regarding cash in transit heists long years ago. And in fact, the thing that we sent, I'm kind of glad that you didn't, you know, in retrospect, you remember them two videos there, Herb?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I asked Wayne to play them to show people in terms of what you call that that type of intelligence.
Because
emerging threats. And I tell him, but what happened is that, you know, Lonesome look at the video and him said, no, me can't give them no idea, me can't play them video.
Them man, they're copycat, man.
And in retrospect, I'm glad you didn't.
Yes, man.
I'm glad you didn't.
Man.
Because if them guys to see how to do it properly, how the man they do it, I mean, a whole heap of people out there in Jamaica. So, hats off to you, sir. Thanks for pushing back on one day.
Well, you watch the metaverse now and hear all the government, may I show you the government of Jamaica, you know, where they said this man, him have the whole thing for God solve the crime in Jamaica. Listen, watch the metaverse.
And we are again proud to be pioneers of the way forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Guardsman Metaverse, a new dimension of security. Thank you.
Look what happened, watch him now. Good.
Criminals are getting smarter, but so is our technology.
Can I get a citrus?
There's an intrusion at 482 West Avenue. The intruder is still at the rear of the premises. Dispatch Team Alpha and send alert to client.
I'll go let us way now.
Enter the Guardsman Metaverse, a new dimension of security.
Now, I'm going to show you the next two things before me talk. So this now, get the government to say, yes, we have to do things with you, the private partner, because you have the way out. Show you the next thing now. Look on this now. Now show you where them say them have you now.
You see a lot of them people here, sure?
Yes.
Me sit down with them and talk to them. Year after year after year. I'm not, when you finish, I'll tell you something.
Yes. Watch this
Safety
now.
for all. But that safety faces new threats every day. Threats that require innovation-led integrated solutions. Initiating a new dimension of security. Artificial intelligence software to take cameras to the next level, enabling maximum surveillance through license plate, facial, weapon and object recognition, location detection, and crowd counting. Using the power of AI technology and our highly trained security officers, G-Force provides 24-hour threat detection with targeted response times and direction. When your cameras know exactly what to look for, it makes threat detection far more effective, minimizing human error or bias. G-Scope allows our central station to get real-time visual verification at the time of an alarm through client security cameras to see what caused it, allowing us to issue the appropriate response to each situation. You have valuable items and people you want to protect. iProtect gives you smart solutions to monitor and secure every inch of your space, whether you are near or miles across the world. Plus, automated control over lights, temperature, door locks, and live 1080p video and audio directly through the mobile app. iProtect for Business gives businesses even more invaluable insight and analytics through automated reporting, smart notifications on security breaches, crowd gathering, queue monitoring, heat mapping, occupancy, and people counting. Aerial surveillance, powered by drones with infrared and thermal imaging technology, will provide real-time video. This makes it a valuable tool for businesses in detecting human or vehicular activity and live streaming during unmanned patrol missions or in supporting guardsman response during a security incident. Guardsman's proactive approach to security leverages the integration of technology and human resources to provide a strategic and tactical response to any situation. Efficient and effective security requires reliable high-speed broadband service. By providing consistent, stable broadband, cameras, drones, and all other security equipment will run smoothly even if the location's ISP has service disruptions. With over 33 pinpoint zones, walk-through metal detectors can pick up the precise location and number of threat objects, which facilitate easier threat detection at events, high-risk locations, and ports of entry. With G-Alert, you will have a panic button mobile app enabled with just a swipe to trigger armed response to your exact location and two-way voice and video with our central monitoring station for enhanced peace of mind and security. With businesses now more reliant on the digital space, they are more exposed to cyber threats. Guardsman Cyber Intelligence will provide a robust layer of security to monitor and provide a proactive response in the case of threats and attacks. This local support and our Security Operations Center will protect not just the business, but the customers and essential data. The new Guardsman mobile app for customers enables contact with our operations teams to be quicker and more convenient with user-friendly features to enhance and maintain a high service delivery. Get access to our security officer schedule.
Just a money thing. Aye. Good night, Maria. Edwards,
Finally. Good night, finally. My apologies. Are you hearing me?
All of us hearing you.
Good night. Good
night.
My
goodness. Sir Herb, my big brother Rattigan, you know I defend you again for and Dr. Taylor, wonderful job. My brother Wayne, I mean, I've been working on this thing like forever. So I'm so happy that I got through finally. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna show you this and I'm gonna carry you in. Let's watch this little last part on our Ratty. Remember, you know, watch this the last part now. Hear this, hear the minister now.
Mention of Deputy Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, and Cabinet colleagues and Member of Parliament. So, the speech that I was given is no longer relevant. And anybody who can tell me that they're not blown away with what has been displayed here this evening, would not be telling the truth. This is absolutely unbelievable. Kenny, congratulations to you and your entire team.
Listen again now, you know, listen.
A few things that I came away with, just thinking aloud. Firstly, to my cabinet colleagues and leader of the opposition, enjoy your CPOs and your blue flashing lights, because I believe we'll be having security guards in short order protecting us based on what I've seen here today. Very, very, very impressive. Secondly, I think I need to invite the guardsman team to my ministry to spend a month so that they can give us all of these good ideas and innovative technology solutions. Maybe I'll have to ask Kenny to loan me one or two of them to put on the ICT advisory committee, but at no cost. But just to say that this is truly mind-blowing. And what came to mind, DPM and Minister of National Security, with all this infrastructure and all this investment in infrastructure, why would the government need to duplicate this? We need to partner with security companies, as Kenny said and you said.
What a rubbish. But no, our money we have police and soldier, Father Kenny people, them for just put the money in a machine. Him said mind blowing, you know. This embarrassing. Him should have resigned. Daryl Vass should have resigned. The government, come on now. So you have put our security in a Kenny hand. We can even him little guardsman them when two little car back them up. The one of them get shut up. And the money gone. Every cent gone. Eh? And at this matter about mind blowing. And if you say it not good, you don't tell lie. This makes sense too, no? You're a technocrat.
I don't know where to start. I have a headache. But seriously, I start have a headache. And I tell you something. Kenny Benjamin is a nice fellow. I mean, I've met him. I used to meet with him every Friday night. Him have a social gathering in my office, and I was part of it. And sometimes, you know, see, the thing is, my 30 years of experience, I don't afraid for share it. I willingly share it at no cost. You see, when just don't tell you and all of them things, me sit down and tell them that years ago. Me sit down and tell them that. Me have to take credit. Because when I see this nonsense, I mean, I know say this is the full metaverse.
The metaverse.
No, this is a reverse. It's not a metaverse.
It's a reverse.
No, because you know what, me sit down with them, you know, and Herb can't. I mean, no, Herb sit down now. Herb must have. Herb must know how you feel, Herb, because you know what this is. This come down to one thing, you know. This come down to the fusion center concept. That's what this come down to. The fusion center concept, where we have preached them from 2017. We are preachers to them. We sit down with the Prime Minister and explain all of this. The way just don't see me explain all it. But by the way, a fiction that, you know, because if it work, then wouldn't the 2 weeks scenario be really man. No. That them not do it right. Let me tell you something. You see him show you license plate reader, license plate on the traffic light. They explain to them, say, it have to be mobile. It cannot be fixed only. Because if you have it fixed only and the man them drive on the street over there, so you won't catch them. Me explain that to them. In fact, I brought to Jamaica the premier law enforcement agency where used license plate readers. When the license plate readers company, when them come up with a new technology and they want to use a police department to test it out, them take it to a man who's now the police commissioner of Nassau County, Pat Ryder. Me take Pat Ryder come to Jamaica. And we can explain to them the whole thing. We even go as far as say, listen, me we get some free plate readers for now. The ones them we pack them use and them get the new one and them get the new ones. Them me we talk to them and get to know the new one, the old ones them with the man them have. So at least you have something you can work with. You know, them tell me, no man, we have everything under control. We have everything and we don't need none of them things there. We have everything. We even talk to them about shot spotter, which is an old technology. Yes, old technology, which you use them super. Yes. When the shots fire, it can tell you. It can tell you how many shots. It can tell you the sequence, all of that stuff. But said to them, say, listen, me with Pat even invite the man and say, come at my department, me show you how we use technology for fight crime. So that when the shot spotter go off, right, and the policeman respond, but before the citizen can even call, the shot spotter go off and it come in at the intelligence center, you know, the fusion center, you know, and them call the police closest ones them to the incident and say, hey, watch out, this thing fire off and this is where it fire off. In a car, have a computer. In that computer, they have Google Maps. It bring up the entire area. It show you where the shot fire. It show you the topography. Not only that, it show you all of the criminals them who live in that area there. All of the men who just come from prison. It show you all of the informants to the man. So by the time you can pick up the phone and call, them already, the policeman who are going to respond, them already have all that information there. Me take the people them go to Jamaica. Me take them go to Jamaica. So when we see this, when me talk to Kenny about this. We talk to Kenny about, so when we see them talk about nonsense, they don't know how to do it right. Because
it's a matrix, they make a little movie. And then I'm going to say, you know, when Darrell Vaz say, the
that's
government must invest.
That's an insult to Minister
Chang. Kenny, to take the way and lead way.
That's an insult to Minister Chang. That's an insult. Because with 1.2 billion Jamaican dollars are spent since 2016 till now, and them just about a month ago, them said the US and them form a fusion center. From 2016, they spend money, you know, and they ask for help, and them just get that. And we in the diaspora got him and say, we can't do this for you for free because guess what? This is something where we own. This is something where we have do for years. So we used to assign people to fusion centers, you know. We used to assign people to fusion centers. We used to do a fusion center when we did Mississippi, did it almost every day. Almost every day. When we did overseas, we did the fusion center. When we did America, we did the fusion center. I said to them, say, listen, download everything when we have here, so I'm giving you it for free. Download it. Man, them said, no, we don't want nothing from you. We don't want nothing from you. And no. Them want to go partner with Kenny, and me and Kenny sit down and me talk to Kenny about them ideas, you know. And the metaverse, that come out when? This year? No, the reverse. When it come out? That this year come out? Or this year, last year? This year?
Yes, last year.
All right. Me talk to Kenny about this, Virgin, from about 2018. Me talk to Kenny about this. 2018, 2019. Me talk to Kenny about this. And not just Kenny. A little man, me say, I give a speech, a little Indian man there. Him did there too. Him did there. So, I mean, when we look on this, I swear to God, me get a headache when I watch it. Come here and say, them are do it, and them have not, well, them say them are do it, and them have not do it right. All them need for though, if them don't want me, right? Because I'm not the end all or be all for this. I'm not the only person in the diaspora who have this kind of experience. I would have said if them even ask me, see the man sit down right next to you there, no, Herb Nelson.
Yes.
Him are the man them for call upon and say, Herb, come and show you how to do it. Forget about Rattigan, because me too controversial, and you know, them not gonna want me, because me a rebel, you know what I say? But Herb is a kind of man now. Herb level-headed, Herb is a professional, Herb know for the things with diplomacy. Me know, can you see where me I come from, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all.
I think that too, man.
Yeah, and sometimes when you see things that go wrong, you know, brethren, you see things, it's hard for you to control yourself. And we can't put up with foolishness. Because we come from an organization for 30 years, we don't put up with foolishness. We don't put up with this nonsense. When nonsense starts, we move people. But Herb is a man now. Herb not put up with nonsense either. But what happens is that Herb have a sense of what I want. So me more volatile than Herb. So them don't have to take me. But take Herb. Take Herb and make Herb show you how to do this thing. Because Herb work in a fusion center. Herb know the inner workings of a fusion center. Him know it. Him can teach it. Him can develop it. Him can build it for them. So don't even take me. Don't take me. Not take me. Take Herb.
Come
in, Herb. Come in.
Herb. Him turn off your mic. Herb, you just watch. You just see that. Look away, right? Herb, turn on your mic.
Herb, the what?
I talk about him now. We not hear him.
Herb.
But listen, 2016 were brief. We're brief again all the way in 2018, right? We told them we could break it out along 3 counties, Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. We would have fusion centers in all 3 counties. We brought not just a fusion center concept, but the security operations center that would operate with satellites, could pick up the cars traveling along the highways or the local roads. The police cars would have the fixed Wi-Fi on it, where the police could transmit, set up their own communication using Wi-Fi in the trunk of the cars. The license plate readers mounted on the back of the trunk. That's mobile, going around picking up all the vehicles that were in a certain area at the time of crimes. So you could shut down the highway using the same cameras and using the shot spotter system. When the shots go off, you would be able to close all the highway accesses and departure areas, and you could then do a quick sweep and pinpoint the vehicles that most likely shots came from. The fusion center concept would be driven by a SOC, Security Operations Center, that is doing all of the spotting for them, electronic eye, so to speak, the drones. All of these things would then culminate in the fusion center, where they would put it all together and have rapid deployment teams to go out and support the police or support the guard companies, whoever they are. None of this stuff is rocket science. And all of that stuff that we briefed them back in 2016, again, 2018, it was brought to them. They would have a computer, supercomputer. They could search that supercomputer and identify from the face trace anybody walking into the airport, anybody walking into a bank, to any facility you have, right? All the face trace could be done. They show it as if it's some brand new technology. My God, we use that here, and we can use it on our front doorbells, the Nest system, or the other system where them use. And if you're linked to a face trace reader software, you can identify the people at your door. So it's gone much further than that here in the US.
Yes, sir.
And this whole thing is a day late and a dollar short. You're right. If they had it set up, they would never been hit twice in Portmore, and not just twice in Portmore, twice at the same bank, Nova Scotia, right?
In the same area. Just
same area.
Fine. Same place of fine.
Yes. So
near the station. Maria.
Yes, Wayne.
How you doing? How you doing?
I am doing good.
Okay, you just saw that, right? The government now, after Kenny, come with him reverse. Because in a metaverse that a reverse. Them come with him reverse. The government now want partner with Kenny. Yeah? To help solve crime in Jamaica. But now we gone in a reverse of the police and soldier block off road.
But here's the problem.
I can show you. To make the metaverse, the reverse, put money in a cash machine. What your point about this? What you saying about this?
But the thing, something, Jamaica has too many lazy politicians. And so they look for the easiest way to spend the least amount of money, but they want to get the best thing done. The security system in Jamaica, as it is, the justice and security structure in Jamaica is weak, is broken. And in order for, looking at the security guards and what they're doing, in order for that to have any strength, in order for that to work, they have to be willing to work with the people who know. They don't want to talk to the people who know to help them to make the system better. What Kenny Benjamin has with the security system. It's a good idea, but it's not going to work on the ground as it is. How is it going to keep security guards safe? How is it going to keep the public safe? They have to put in the kind of money to help that system to work. They have not done that. And like Herb just said, and Will just said, they have to do it in a way that it's not stationary, it has to be mobile. There's a reason for that. You know, it's funny, Will was talking about the license plate reader. A few years ago, I knew somebody who got in trouble, did something wrong here in New York, and they were able to trace him from upstate New York all the way to Brooklyn and back upstate to upstate New York into New Jersey, and they did it by tracing his license plate. And the reason they were able to do that is, as Will says, it was mobile. Jamaica can do that, but if they cut us with the corruption, they'll have the money to put into these things to do it. But the politicians are too lazy, and so they go the easiest route possible, and they expect to get maximum benefit for spending as little amount of money as possible. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And it's a mighty, mighty shame that in 2023, when you have so many resources available, you have human intelligence available to you, you have people who are in the know, who are giving their services to you, to the country, and they're not willing to take these people on. It's a mighty, mighty shame. Why are they really treating the Jamaican people with such disrespect, such disdain? Because that's what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to.
So
and the Jamaican people have to sit up, stand up, and say, you know something, enough is enough, because they're the ones who are suffering at the end of the day.
Yes.
They're the ones suffering at the end of the day.
All right, tell me something though. Kenny Benjamin though, you think it's worth it for our police, our taxpayers' dollars now?
No.
You know, we the police and soldier have following around Kenny Benjamin reverse.
No, but Kenny Benjamin's company is private. He has the money to take care of his private company.
And I get to understand Google Gaga tour in Portmore just over the weekend or something. Come on, news was yesterday. Him and ex-police there touring the place there in Portmore. And then them come up with this foolishness now. Police, I get a lot of videos, you know. Police now and soldier, them a block off road when money are delivered. So if police are doing
but that makes no sense, because that is inconvenient.
And the government make these private players pay them, and then make up the police pay them, and the soldier pay. While we have to still pay the police and soldier, but Kenny Benjamin are getting full pay for our protection, for our taxpayers' money.
But they are moving valuable resources with. They are moving valuable resources to put into that one situation while inconveniencing people. They can do it. There's a better way to get it done. There's a better way to get it done, because when they have soldiers and police, I saw the video you were talking about yesterday, and when they have soldiers and police doing that, do you know how many crimes they could be solving in another area? So they're taking away resources from other needed issues. Kenny Benjamin has the money to put into his company to make it efficient. He has chosen not to do so because he has a government that is not going to hold him accountable and ensure that this is done. Because how can you have two major those are bank heists. I don't care what anybody wants to say.
Yes.
And there is no investigation into why it happened the first time. And then the second time, something is wrong somewhere.
Can I say something to you though? You know what? That guy Overton said. Overton said, "Hope and pray." I don't have it.
It wouldn't happen again.
That it never happened again. Hope and pray.
But it happened once. Once is all you need. One time. And the fact that it happened one time, if he was astute, he would have known that the one time should tell him that this is a high risk area. And as a matter of fact, he didn't need one issue for him to realize it's a high risk area, so he should have been patrolling the area in a better way. Because the truth of the matter is those kinds of bank heists are not going to take place in the hood because they don't have those kinds of infrastructure in the hood. They really don't. So it's going to take place in these high-risk neighborhoods where you have the banks, you have the shopping centers. That's where it's going to happen. That's where they're going to look to go on and do these kinds of heists. So why wasn't it better? Why weren't people better prepared? Why wasn't Kenny Benjamin and Beryllium better prepared for these kind of eventualities? Because if they were serious about security, they would have known that this was possible. They would have known.
Will, overturn same open prayer. We not understand that. In anything, you people wanna do the security, remember your job. Something happen where you do open prayer happen again?
No, we'd never call on Providence.
Exactly.
We don't. You call on your skill sets and everything like that. In fact, one of the things, and we used to go out on raids, they used to say, hey, listen, be safe because we want to make sure we go back home with the same amount of holes that we left our homes with this morning. Right? Let me just say something about Kenny Benjamin, right? A nice guy, like I said. Astute businessman. And that's what you just saw right there. You saw how to make $1, right? No, he used to put on something called, and I don't know if he's still doing that, like a crime forum every year. Now think about that. Just stop and think about that for a second. The JCF not putting on a crime forum. Kenny Benjamin and Guardsman putting on a crime forum, and in attendance, JCF.
That's kind of backwards.
Yeah, that's why we call it reverse. And so, but there are several elements to a successful intelligence center / fusion center. One of them is this: you must have a robust and developed source base. And Herb can talk more about this. If you don't have sources, the technology will complement the sources. You have to have people telling you what's going on. And as I've said many times before on this program, that as an FBI agent, you're graded every 90 days. And one of the elements is your source base. You better have people telling you things. If you don't have people telling you things, you're in deep, deep trouble. And not only telling you things, but telling you things that are actionable. Them can't tell you things when them reading a newspaper. And I've seen that happen with the news supervisor say, what is? Him say, I read this in the New York Times. This, no. You have to close a brother there. Can't use him. Right? You have to have a source base to complement the technology. You cannot do it only with technology, and you cannot do it only with sources, because and when you have sources, you have to have a redundancy in your source base. Because if somebody tell you something, you have to be able to go verify it. You can't just take somebody's word like that. Even if the person is reliable and constant, you still want to have another source where that source don't even know about. And you verify the information against him.
Yes.
And one of the things what we used to do, we have a source and we want to vet him. You ask somebody else from another squad, because you can look at you can actually see the source base, and you can act them have listen, them have people, and this is not this is not classified information. Them have a group called FIG. I used to run the FIG in New York, Field Intelligence Group, and they have a group of guys inside there. Their only purpose in life at that point in time in the FBI is to develop sources. Not build cases, develop sources. So as an agent, I'm supposed to develop my own sources. So if I try and can't find can't find a source, I go to these guys because that's their specialty. Them they are every party, them they are every event, them they are everything you can think about. Them there for develop sources, and then them give a source. So if you don't have a source, I notice them not talk about sources, right? Someone know how you fight crime without sources, and that's what the JCF has been doing. You fight crime without sources, and when I say sources, it cannot be a source that has allegiance to you. Because I'll tell you something a CIA guy tell me one time overseas. I had some people who would only, in a foreign country, who would only talk to me because of the relationship I developed with them. And CIA guy explained to me, he said, listen, if you have so-called sources that will only talk to you, then you don't have sources, you have a friend. And we don't want friends, we want sources. A source is supposed to be able to talk to the agency. Any agency, not just the individual. So after me develop that relationship and me gone, the person who replaced me supposed to come in and take over that relationship with the source. If the source said, no, me don't want to talk to a brother, only Ratigan me want, then that was not source. That was not source. That was a friend. And them say, we don't operate on friendship, we operate on sources. So them need to get them act together. And again, me make a plea for Herb. Herb is a modest man. Herb not talk much, but there's a lot of going in his head. And you need to download her brains because he have a lot going on. Don't let me, because
but Ratigan, a king has no honor in his own country, you know.
Well, who say me a king?
No, I mean, no. What I'm saying, because they're not going to use her with all the intelligence, you know. You know what I'm saying?
No, but
and
you
so
what,
they'll take somebody else with the same information.
But here's the thing, and I've said it before, and I've said it openly, and I'll continue to say it. Politicians in Jamaica, they're too smart. They're too smart. They're not gonna give me that job because none of them will come to me if they ever gave me that job and say, listen, I want you to look over there, but I don't want you to look over there. I want you to look at that person. I don't want them too smart for that because the moment you tell me that
they're gonna get caught. They're gonna get caught.
The moment you tell me that, guess who me I look upon?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Exactly. The moment you tell me that, plus before me come there, me I look upon you already.
Of course.
Because like the man said, like the man said, we have the files.
The files.
We have the files.
Well,
So
exactly.
Them don't want me come there.
And that's the biggest problem Jamaica has. That's the biggest problem Jamaica has, because if they should really look at security, national security in a holistic way and get the people involved who can do the job, they will get caught. Their friends will get caught. So the whole system will be cleaned up. And that is the problem that we're facing.
And that's the problem with Kenny Benjamin's system. It's private security, and it's going to be geared towards looking only in areas where you have the rich and where you're protecting the rich and wealthy, and they're gonna fork over that money each month to be covered, to make sure that their kids are covered, to make sure if their wife is driving the vehicle from point A to B, just like that woman who claimed that somebody grabbed her out of her car, took her vehicle from her, and cut her kid's throat. If Kenny Benjamin's system was working and the CCTV or Jamaica Eye was working well, they would have seen all that scripted going down the road, right? So,
it was scripted, yes, scripted. Yes.
Because the fact is, there's no way. You look at the preceding events, the fact that this kid was the way he was, the question is, were they safeguarding the kid, or did they take the kid out there and something happened that we all are afraid to talk about, right? And the police have not moved in to do the questioning or arrest her on any suspicions at all. They have a hands-off approach. Let's talk about bank robbery for a second. If they come out there and they're hitting the bank and they're shooting up your guards, right? I would ask the bank to post a guard with a long gun, with a sniper's gun, on the roof. Simple.
You wanna send, if you're Kenny Benjamin, Overton, you wanna send, because you send more money this time. You send 10 million that gone, one of your guard die, the other one injury and end up in the hospital, all kind of things. This time you don't send more guards. You don't right?
You can send more guards, right?
But you don't make sure look out for what you look out for. You don't send
right. The trick to pulling them out is to, if you act normally and you come back again, and this time you have a sniper posted on the roof, you need to conceal that person up on the roof. And I don't know what the roof outlay is like.
By the way, Godman and Venice sniper, though, because them little barrel gun and them thing there. When you say barrel gun and drop on your foot, man, they tell you, hey, boy, move,
Well, the police have
yeah,
snipers.
no, under the police,
The
them run too.
military
But
snipers.
the iPod weapon, the man them have. And you have a little barrel gun, come and see one of them a Godman has spin it. The matter about welcome to Metaverse. If you have a little 38, and you're the pump, man, you out done and say, hey, boy, go away. And when you do some power, drop your foot in the man them have real iPod weapon. Them not have no gun. Eh?
I'm telling you, man.
Sniper. When all them hear that him check out for the building, left you too. Just man, them want train. Them want lampile.
They can't be trained, right? A sniper has an advantage, right? Because he or she is looking through that scope, and they're scanning the entire community below them, and they can tell who's carrying a weapon beneath their jackets or their shirts or whatever. They can tell who's been in the area too long, walking around in circles, waiting, checking the watch. All of these things they can tell, right? But above all, what Will was saying, if you have confidential informants, and a confidential informant should be able to say to you, you know something, the scuttlebutt on the road is, or in my community is, or in this community is, there's going to be a big hit coming up on the Nova Scotia Bank, right? This is what a confidential informant is supposed to tell you. And if you have the person on payroll, they got to be bringing in information and giving information to you that is actionable intelligence, right? So if again, back in 2016, I had a friend come to Jamaica, took over the Homeland Security Investigations Office in Kingston. And when he called me after 6 months, I said, don't talk about anything. Just check it out. Do all your normal checks. And then let's talk in 6 months. The biggest thing he spoke about was a lack of confidential informants, not just with his office, but within the JCF and other agencies there. And it's a big key, right? So no fancy spyware, no fancy drone. None of this stuff is going to work unless you know what area you're supposed to focus those cameras on, focus the drones on. And the only way you're going to know is if you're getting the intelligence ahead of time on that.
But
So,
Ratty, but me just ask Ratty then. Ratty, if you carry money 3 weeks ago and them shoot up your reverse, right? A reverse, metaverse, a reverse, and kill one of your guard and the other one wounded. You don't do that the same way. You carry even more money this time. You carry 10 million and them gone with that and kill one of your guard and you send back the same thing. Them park the same way. Them park with them face in. Them come out the same way and get attacked this time with more rifle and more thing. It's nearly 200 shot fire, And a matter of fact, someone told me that because I have, personally close by, right? Them say if that lights of fire hole and never intervene, when them get shot in a fiend buttocks too. Because the man them a shooter, them pick him out, and give him one. Because him help them and them still give him one. You understand? And them your man with them little spin barrel and them pumping our work. It not make no sense. The man have fire iPod rifle and thing. You pow and it drop on your foot. It don't make no sense.
Look, one of the things. One of the things are like we're focus a little bit on the intelligence base, right? Confidential informant, and then you have two: confidential informant and confidential witness. The witness is one who will tell you stuff and actually show up at trial. The informant is one who will give you information but will never show up at trial, right? But whether it's a witness or an informant, the fact of the matter is that you have to be able to protect people and protect information. And we know that does not happen in Jamaica. We know that. That's why them don't have a confident. That's why they don't have a robust intelligence base. One is that you have some people who will only talk to certain policemen, right? And the other thing is that you have a lot of people who won't talk to any policeman or woman, right? And so because they know that they can't protect them. How many times have we heard stories about somebody going to the station to report something happening in the neighborhood, and by the time them reach back, the person who them complain at the other gate and wait for them?
Yeah, true, man. True.
You know, it
So it's
and the
never
other thing,
corruption.
yeah, the other thing too
It's
is
never
that
corruption, yeah.
the other thing too is that, and again, I'm preaching to the choir. There's a huge difference between information and intelligence. I mean, just let the people listening out there, just make that sink in on the head. There's a huge difference. And again, I don't want to steal Herb's thunder because this is his bailiwick, you know, the intelligence cycle, right? There's a big difference between when information comes in and when it goes out as intelligence. It doesn't come in as intelligence, comes in as information, right? And then it's processed, it's verified, analyzed, and then disseminated. And there's a whole cycle about doing that, right? Again, Herb Nelson knew about this. Herb Nelson knew this to the T, right? And sometimes you hear the police come up and say, "Oh, based on our it was an intelligence-driven operation." Is a man call him and tell him say a man down the street? That's an intelligence. That's a tip. That's that information. In fact, Crime Stop supposed to pay the man should have called Crime Stop and get the money.
Yeah.
That's a tip. That's the information. That's not intelligence. And them don't know the difference. And here it is that we, as trained professionals with decades of experience, we said we would like to go back home and work with our countrymen. Because, by the way, I'm not putting down the JCF in its entirety because you have some outstanding policemen. I've met some of them. I've worked with some of them. In fact, I worked with one of them on a case out of Florida, right? They have some outstanding people there. But you know, you just need to get things going, because what you have is you have the lack of leadership. And from you have lack of leadership, you're going to have problems, right? And if you can't fix that right there, then you're going to have somebody like Kenny Benjamin coming in, because tell you what, Kenny's not an idiot. He knows the gaps there. He knows the gaps. So he can come in and he comes in at an angle where they can't refuse him. Because when he come in with this fancy presentation, JCF have nothing like that.
I be money they make.
They have nothing like that.
So when
he come in sideways and say, watch, I see something. You know, your Minister Vard get up and say, I don't think we should even need the police, you know. And then I'm going to say, maybe the police should have worked in concert with Kenny.
Partnership, private partnership.
Yeah.
So that mean me can go. That mean when you say, I forgot back out my Joan and go shoot me, I forgot make my thing, come here video too, you know. So I forgot back out my Joan, you know.
A few years ago.
See what am I doing there? See that? See what am I doing there? See how many things? God, I put them up. Me have my Joan with my man. Well, I have things them with me. So what happened?
Somebody want to know.
So what happened? Kenny, I would make all of the funds. That mean them have got call me too. Eh?
No. Listen. Them want drones, if they want real drones, because a few years ago, the business community out of Montego Bay donated a drone to the police, the JCF out there. I want to say the drone. You have to laugh. I say, what kind of crime they must stop with this piece of sitting here? You know? If they want drones, if they really want drones, again, talk to Herb Nelson, because Herb Nelson have the links with the military. You can get military grade drones. That them really need. Not the commercial one, the military grade one.
Yes.
And Herb have the links through him contacts in Washington, and him can't get it. So I beg them. Herb Nelson is the man in the diaspora for to reach out to. Reach out to Herb Nelson if you really want the help.
But
they're not going to do that, Will, because they're not going to do that, because if he does that right now, the corruption is so bad. You have to, first of all, in order to do all of that, you have to get rid of the corruption. That's the first problem Jamaica has. Corruption. Too much cronyism, too much nepotism. All of that has to be gotten rid of. Because you bringing in Herb right now, good idea. He has the ideas. You have the know-how. You all look. The information is there. The people are there with the information. The problem is the Jamaican government itself. The structure of the Jamaican government is such that it is not conducive to that right now. It's not. They have the system has to be cleaned up, cleaned out to allow this to work and be effective. The Jamaican people have to stand up and demand that this happens.
You're right, because look at this leadership. As I was saying, they have good policemen and women there who can take over that organization, but instead they brought a military man, and this is the third military experiment. This is the third military experiment. And guess what? This is the biggest failure out of all three of them. This one here is the biggest failure out of all three of them.
Tell me something, Ricky. Hold on. Tell me something. Is a military man there on Kenny Benjamin overturned too?
Indeed.
It's a Google tree to get fired. Google overtime, if you go your yard, boy, you pray, open pray, it not again. You don't open pray.
You know the last person.
Man, make no sense.
You remember the last person who said,
excuse him because he is a Coast Guardsman. He don't know anything about field tactics or anything like that. I mean, you know, because an infantry officer would be telling you how to set up an ambush for the very people that ambush those guys, right? And he probably would use snipers in such a scenario, right? Scenario planning wasn't the Coast Guard thing. They were patrolling out on the water, wide open sea. So sorry, Ratty. Go ahead.
No. What you say? We have square pegs in round holes. Yeah, right throughout private industry and government. You know, we don't have the right people in the right places, and that is the issue. And you talk about corruption. I mean, the good doctor, him can't tell you too. We don't want to leave the doctor out of this discussion, because even though we are talking about police, law enforcement matters now, it impacts where him a try though. Because a lot of the stuff where this corruption when can't get
it's all like a domino effect. It does have a domino effect. You see? That's the problem. Jamaica has a major corruption problem.
The doctor will tell you he needs the drones on the beach. He don't identify all the politicians coming on the beach.
Exactly.
Well, it's a good point, Master Herb, because you know that while the Blue Lagoon is closed, there's still commercial activity going on the Blue Lagoon, which is all of the rich that's live around the Blue Lagoon. All right. And I heard that a famous minister is paddling in and sailing his boat in the Blue Lagoon while the public is locked out. So it is really a lot of corruption. And this is why I think where Jamaica stand right now, proposing to become a republic, there's a couple of things that we need to straighten out in governance. All right. And, poised to write a new constitution. All right. And I think this is the time where all citizens of Jamaica, whether them die yard or them living at the diaspora, need to get involved in this process. Because, post 1962, we have an opportunity right now to put a constitution in place that is reflective of just a progressive Jamaican society. And a lot of us who, reside in the diaspora, who, own property in a yard, vested in a yard, have vested interest to make sure that Jamaica is, living up to the ideals of really protecting and securing its citizens. So we need to be included in these decisions process. So I think the Jamaicans in this diaspora have a lot to offer, and them just need to come to us. Because we leave, we come, we study, we go back home, we interact with, in contact with all that's happening on the ground. So they need to really give us this space. But I want to share. Can I share something here?
Yes, man.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can share a screen. That which screen now? Let's see here. What is this screen called now? let's see here, because what I'm trying to point out here is yes, this screen here. All right, can you see this screen?
Make us see if I can draw it up here. Hold on. Yes, hold on. This one?
Yes.
All right.
You see that screen there? The office of the Prime Minister have 19 agencies that sits inside there.
Wow.
All right. So when we're talking about good governance, as the good governance tone it should be.
But that can't be good governance. That coming like a bullpen.
So, I mean, this is some of the issues that we're having a lot of conflict. And if we have good governance, then we are going to make sure that many of these agencies are operating in very objective spaces. And the one that we're pointing out is actually the environmental climate change, which NEPA is part of, that we think is leading to some of the issues that we're having right now, not only with beach rights, okay, but also with environmental rights. We're talking about National Land Agency, which has to do with land rights of Jamaicans to access beaches and use the sea. It resides within this ministry. So economic growth and job creations, all these things that sits right, JIS, Information Ministry, all of it sits inside the office of the Prime Minister. So we're talking about good governance. This cannot be good governance because environmental cannot sit with job and economic growth and job creation. There are going to be many conflicts in that space. And when we're talking about land agency, there are going to be conflicts inside the space. So we have to really know in an era, make sure that the constitution that we're going to develop in Jamaica address many of these things so we have good governance and we don't have conflicts because a lot of things are bundled within one agency. So it's a good segue and it leads to a lot of security problem. I mean, a lot that we're seeing, in terms of beach access and all-inclusive hotel, exclusive economic zone being created and exclude the populace from it. It creates conflict. I mean, and studies and research has been done that show how all-inclusive drive a kind of alienation in a society and further, push, violence and the developments of garrisons, developments of ghettos along the coastal plain. So we really need really good governance. So yeah, these are things that we need to really be, to be mindful of. All right. So,
But Dr. Taylor, if I may, you just talk about tourism, because tourism now is the number one driver of the economic driver in Jamaica. But the problem that has posed is that it has shut out, it has caused a marginalization, because there was a time when agriculture was the leading economic driver in Jamaica. And with that, the farmers were able to provide the hotels with produce. Before you have all these all-inclusive that has excluded the local people, you had the craftsmen who supplied the hotels. So the hotel industry has created a bigger problem than it is solving right now. Because when somebody books a fare, that money is spent wherever they book that they book that fare. It's not spent in Jamaica, right? So they have shut out Jamaicans and made Jamaicans poor because these all-inclusive spaces are not utilizing the local resources, the local craftsmen, the local farmers. They're not utilizing them. They're bringing in their stuff from overseas. So in doing that, they're harming the very economy that they say they want to build. Now, if agriculture and if the resources, the natural resources of the country were being utilized, then we wouldn't have this issue with our beaches being sold off to the highest bidder.
Yes,
that is the problem we're facing.
It's economic policy. It's an economic policy that the government choose to pursue. All right. And so when you don't have good governance, when you don't have the right technocrats, or you're not really listening to many of your professionals, so it's a quick buck, but it's not sustainable. And that's what we're asking, that, we try to build out an economy that is more sustainable. We talk about food security. Tourism will not breed food security. And let's be clear, we're not anti-tourism, because the true nature of tourism is very a powerful tool of exchange of ideas, interaction with people. You know what I mean?
But one thing though, Doc.
Yes.
How them running tourism in Jamaica, when you carry the people them from the airport to the hotel, that is more like a Nazi camp to me, because you're not interacting. First time tourists used to come to the art of the country, no more. So it's when all inclusive. So you it's like you're there in a Nazi camp really in a ratty, and you're cool out for 2 weeks, and then you put it back on a plane. That's not productive, brother.
No, it's an apartheid-like tourism model that we have in Jamaica.
Of course,
right? Where you can't go on those properties, and you're excluded from them, and that's really a shame. It's a shame that we are there, and I think it is incumbent on every Jamaican to really push back at that. So that is unacceptable. I do not who wants to grow them kids up in a society where your kid driving by seeing all these walls and fences and all that things going on over there, and you can't get there. It's just not right. It's immoral to really be doing that. But again, as I said, all of it's tied into the economic model. It's an economic model that has been chosen, to develop out in Jamaica. And we have to push back at it. We need a balance, a more diverse, economic system in Jamaica. You talk about the farmers, that is a very important space. We have, a lot of farmland in Jamaica, and we can creatively grow things. But the other thing is that the earth is over 70% water. So there's more oceans and sea than land. All right. And what we can see, what we know, right? Mariculture, which is growing different things in the sea, is growing into a massive industry. I mean, the seaweed industry is a massive industry. All right. Not only that, but innovation is happening in the fishing sector in other countries where you might go 50 miles out or 100 miles out, and they have massive, man-made reefs that are, growing just tens of thousands of fish. So now you start cultivate these things in the ocean, so we can get into those high-tech spaces, because most of the world gets its protein sources from the sea. So if we are truly, innovative and creative, and we learn and we know these things, then, it is good for government to really talk to ones in the diaspora who have Jamaica's interest at heart, and will impart our intellectual, capabilities free of cost to the country. I mean, I did that during COVID as a research scientist. I volunteered my time for more than a year in COVID, helping develop convalescent plasma, research program at the University of the West Indies. And I gladly do it, and will do it again and again and again. Because this is what, we are educated in Jamaica. Our families live there. Okay, we live there. We're not really foreigners to Jamaica. I'm surely not. And I know them are not. Foreigners to Jamaica. We're invested in there. Ownership of property and resources and family. And we will give back freely and willingly. But one of the things that we want to see in Jamaica, we want to see good governance. And I'm hoping our move towards a republic, which I'm supportive of. But I want a very strong constitution that protects the rights of the people. Okay? That gives us rights and access to our ecological heritage. We don't want this kind of marginalization.
But two things though, what can do like him something, right? Before them even think of, you go republic, them could have write all these things in laws where, everybody equal under the laws and all kind of thing. Them could have changed it up. Them can.
But wait.
This hurt me head. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Dr. Taylor just touched on a very important point about the Constitution.
Yes.
There's a Constitution Council, Reform Council being set up, right, Dr. Taylor? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're
yeah,
correct.
but who are the members on that council? We said that's an issue right now, because before we can have a robust constitution that represents the Jamaican people and that doesn't shut them out and give all the powers to the elites,
Yeah, who are the one on
there has to be a council that includes people from every walk of society in Jamaica and the diaspora. It cannot be a political thing where you have
some political people there. Them have
just politically aligned people. It cannot be that every parish, every parish.
Canada, one person.
Yes, every parish must have somebody representing.
Not a Jamaican though. One person from Canada. Them have I think them have a couple people from the parties, and then them have one person from Canada. From both parties, them have 2 or 3 from.
Yeah, but what about the local people? What about the voices of the local people who can speak up for their community? Because every community is different. Every parish has different issues to deal with. You have the beaches issue to deal with. Every parish has a different issue, and every parish, persons in each parish must have a contribution.
No, but them need
and
to
must have a say in this constitutional reform council.
Yes, so you see, them need to come out and talk to the people them first. You know, you have to have a referendum to
I agree. I believe in a referendum.
Yes.
Put the ideas out there. Put the ideas out there.
Talk to the
educated. Can't be just a few people.
So when them yes, and then when you drop some constitution now for do your thing, make sure it's right and it balance for every single Jamaican. You understand? And some impeachment and all kind of things. And it's very rough against politicians, especially them patakat there, because we are for them and the big boys them. They're mashing up the country. Straight. Yes, man. And next thing again, you ever see in North America or Europe or anywhere, you ever go in a hotel and you see security guard that stop you? Or you can just walk into the hotel and go ask them anything.
Yeah, that does not exist in the States. In Europe, where I travel, I mean, India, I've gone to, Middle East, I've gone
in Jamaica, you can just walk into the hotel and go talk. Our security guard stop you and ask where you are.
Stop it. Security guard stop you. I mean, you can't even enter the lobby. You can't cross the gate.
You can't go to the lobby.
You can't pass the gate.
But Dr. Taylor, didn't we fight this battle already? Dr. Taylor, didn't we go through this situation back in the 70s where, black people, Jamaicans were not allowed to go into certain spaces?
Yes, and have a change up.
And the government of the day made sure that if Jamaicans cannot go there, then you cannot do business here. Haven't we been down that road before?
Yes.
Well, listen, the issue here is, see, whereas aspects of this has nothing to do primarily with when you look at it on color, all right? It has a lot of socioeconomic implications. All right, and most of the folks in Jamaica who are on the low socioeconomic, of low socioeconomic status, are descendants of enslaved African. So they are black because the country is over 96%. So we find ourselves in that kind of a situation where it's our descendants, people like us, is really in these brackets, and so we are suffering from the exclusion. And the exclusion is because of your economics, in one sense. All right. And then you tie that into your color. So there's a colorism that is also associated with it. All right. Yeah. So the sociologists, them can break it down, but it's very obvious, who get excluded from these spaces. All right. And it's, as we go through it earlier, the thing can stop. All right. And that's why we're open that constitutionally, and we're asking for these things to be enshrined in the Constitution. So access to ecological heritage, all right, access to beaches and rivers, be protected. So no law, no mechanism, whether it be economic, whether it be social, cannot exclude and we need them to be embedded. Now, we talk about the Constitutional Committee, which is arranged. You know, they're all Jamaicans. I mean, it's heavily laden by attorneys. All right? And that's one of the criticism that is out there. Listen, we must get rid of the king. All right? And we must move to a republic. Those are things that we should have done a long time ago. All right? We need to finish the the independence project. So Jamaica need to stand on its own. You know what I mean? Just like how the Americans get rid of the British and stand on them own and write them own constitution. We need to do that. We want to make sure that we ensure that the ones who are on this committee are really in touch with what is going on in the country, our full perspective of where we're coming from as the descendants of enslaved African. So we need our Afrocentricity to be reflected in the Constitution. All right. We need our religiosity to be expressed in the Constitution. We need our environmentalism to be expressed in the Constitution. And so we want to make sure that they broaden the scope of the individuals in there. And that's why I think some of the ones that are on there, not all of them, we need replacement, because we need to see the country need to be able to identify with some of those scholars. And we have, plenty of scholars in Jamaica that are Pan-Africanists, that are environmentalists, that we know when they sit, in those committees, they will be advocating for all that would make Jamaica, stay beautiful environmentally, be safe, and the ones them who are in our society who need that kind of economic, help will get it, because the Constitution will be fair and balanced, and legislation like the Beach Control Act will no longer exist. We need that.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to wrap up now, because we see we're going to 3 hours, Ratty?
Yeah. No, I was looking over the Beach Control Act again, and found an interesting piece in it. Section 54, it says that if a beach has been declared to be a public recreational beach, a beach that's owned by someone, not the government, and the NEPA, one of them said, no, we're going to declare it a recreational beach, that person can write to the authority if the person wants to develop it like a hotel. And then they, in their wisdom, after consultation with the local authority of the parish, may revoke the order, making it a public beach. So here again is another draconian thing, that even after them claims that beach is public, right? The person can say, no, I'm gonna appeal this to the authority. And then the authority can say, well, you want to build a hotel where, and if him say, look, I'm going to build a hotel, it's going to bring economic boom to this area, because we're going to have jobs and we're going to have this and that and that. Yeah. And so them just say, yeah, you know what, fine, take it over and things like that. So that's one. The second one is that under the beach and coastline preservation policy, they have a development manual, and it says that it talks about development and subdivisions, which I read earlier. So that you have to allow people to have views of the seaside and the riverbanks and the beaches. In fact, let me read it again. Development and subdivisions along the coast and riverbanks should be so designed as to allow the public to enjoy the seaside, the riverbanks, and the beaches. For that reason, special areas should be left for fishing beaches and for good bathing beaches, with access provided from a public thoroughfare. In some areas, adequate parking may be required. It goes on to say, an area of seaside park should also be provided in every, not some, in every housing development or subdivision along the coast, between the high water mark and the nearest row of lots. This will add value to the lots within the subdivision, and at the same time allow unrestricted passage along the foreshore.
Unrestricted.
Right.
You hear this?
But they're not doing it. That space where they're there, they must put on some more villas on that space.
No, we're going to stop them.
Exactly. Because it says the minister may. There's nothing in there that tells the minister that he must. The minister may. So they word the language. And I'm going to read for you section 55, section 2 of that 55 section. Okay. It says, the decision of the minister as to whether such license should be granted or refused, or as to whether an order should be disallowed or shall be final and shall not be questioned in any legal proceedings.
So what that means? That means the Prime Minister tomorrow can get up and say, you know what? Unrestricted access, and nobody can take him to court.
No one can take him to court.
No, but hear this story. So as long as you have a pencil for go mark a tick and give them back a job again, you make them know, say, yo, let me tell you this. You break, and this is not about me. This name vote. Yeah? You this way, remember we have fire you. People will get serious. The die-hearted thing done with. Get serious. You understand?
And as I said,
me not get a guy in a work over we, you know. And then him act like a boss and then sell we act like him a boss when him a work for us. And then sell we out and then come grin him teeth.
and as I said yesterday,
It's not gonna work. Yes,
as I said yesterday, this is an issue that we can all rally around. Whether you're PNP, UIC, JLP, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, employed or unemployed, garrison or uptown, wherever you're from, this is an issue that we can all be galvanized about. All.
Yes.
And like you said, and the doc said it yesterday. This is a access issue, it's a land rights issue, but it's also a voting issue.
Yeah, man, we not play with them, man.
Issue.
We not play with them. And then you have we have the angle too, you know. Remember we in the diaspora, you know. And we are giving them a 3 billion, you know. And them are going too much. PSO you have to talk to it too, you know, them not so powerful. No, so long as we not play with them. Herb, what you say? Mic off, Herb. Turn on the mic.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Taylor brought up a key thing tonight when he showed us the chart of the Office of the Prime Minister. Do you realize that every one of those agencies under the Prime Minister are flashpoints?
Mm-hmm.
And the flashpoints is where he has to make decisions to make it work right or make it work wrong, and that's corrupted a whole lot of processes. Just to pick out one, electoral, completely corrupted. 1/3 of the people of Jamaica voted in 2020. And that 1/3 who voted, a lot of them were paid, right? So that's just the electoral. The beach problem. This beach problem, when they first took over, started with the Minister Vaz in his office selling off a US $13 million property for only $7 million. Well, it's a pity Kenny Benjamin didn't have his tracker on then, because then he would have to track where did Minister Vaz go after he sold the property for $7 million, right?
You remember that it makes some kind of stink, and them going like them want to draw back something. It's not the first them try to do that, you know. When them know the property value like 20 million, them want to sell it for 7 or 6 mil. Because that name kickback. I'm gonna say 18 million, we make a keep 2.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
That is it.
And so if the beachfront properties were so lucrative, then they had to come up with a plan to corral and sell more beachfront properties to different millionaires from different stripes of life, whether it's the US, Canada, or the UK. So everywhere you look within the Prime Minister's office, you can see where they can corrupt an entire system. And that is pretty much, by the time they leave office, the PNP going to have a hell of a time trying to unwind the corruption. If they plan.
When they start lock up left, right, and center. Business.
But let me tell you one instance where they won't have a hell of a time. The corruptions prosecutor, in her report, and I spoke to a member of parliament today who's going to send me the report, said that there was little evidence to prove the major allegations against him, against the prime minister. But there was one allegation that there was sufficient evidence, but you wouldn't bring prosecution because of abuse of process, right? No, if there's a change of government, because there's no statute of limitation, abuse of process then meant that it took too long, which is nonsense because there's no statute of limitations. No. I mean, if there's a change of government the next year or 2 years, the evidence is there. It's preserved. So that's not going to take a whole lot of heavy lifting to get the current prime minister in court. So that's one that they could start working with. Or they could do it now, but as you mentioned, Lonesome, that it's probably not a wise thing to do it now. Right, make them leave first, and then once them leave, then
I want to grab sheet too, you know.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, man, we need to go back to corruption to the fullest. We not play with them, none at all.
Yeah,
them what we are talking about, we not play with them.
And
None
that's the major problem that we face. And the good lady is right. If we don't get rid of corruption, they don't want to see anywhere near. You know, I've been writing to all these high-ranking people and pointing things out to them. And not one of them since 2018, I've been writing and sending them different pointers. Not one of them has responded to me because they don't want to acknowledge. And if you have blinders on or blinkers on, and you have your headset over your ears, right, and you're not saying anything, right, you're one of the three blind mice. See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil.
49 blind mice speech, you know, and a tree again. 49.
Yes,
That's my 10 cents word for tonight, because this is ridiculous. And Dr. Taylor, you've been doing a hell of a job, but the problem is
telling you, man.
You're up against it, you know.
Well, you know what I want to say? I think, Andrew, let me talk to you, because we know you watch me and them thing. What I want to watch you. So hear this. When your socks sit up on the other foot, don't you complain about the government and how it big and all kind of things and them things? Why you have so much minister in your office? Minister get minister pay, don't it? When the country have paper economy,
it's not even ministers, you know, it's too many. He alone has too many portfollios. That is the problem. He has too many portfolios, and a lot of these portfolios should not be in the government's purview. It shouldn't be.
Tell me something. How many minister and junior minister the present government have right now? Because they have to get minister pay, you know. And
they have to get minister pay. Because but the issue is how many, all these 19 offices, portfolios are within the prime minister's office. They shouldn't be there because the public broadcasting should not be the purview of the prime minister.
Nah.
Environmental issues should not be the purview of the prime minister, because then he's going to be corrupt in his dealings, because he's easily influenced, and so they can lobby him. Anybody can lobby him to get a beach, to get a hotel, anywhere. Anybody can lobby him. So he's compromised. So it should not be his office.
You know what, before we're going further, what we should do? I don't mean to I'm not taking over the program, but Dr. Devon Taylor, we need to make him talk about the organization, how we can support the organization financially and otherwise, because and how people can reach him in the diaspora.
Yes, Devon, yes.
Yes. So primarily, right, we are at jabem.org. So that's our website. Visit jabem.org. You will get a lot of information. We are on your social media platforms at Jabem, Instagram. We are on Twitter at BBEM_JA. Quickest way to get to us, send us an email. All right? At info.jabem@gmail.org. I mean at gmail.com.
So that's JABBEM, right?
Yes. So that's info.jabbem@gmail.com. All right. So you could get us there. We have, and what we're appealing also is that we have set up a legal defense fund, and we have a GoFundMe campaign out there. So you can go to GoFundMe and you can search for One Love Jamaica Beach Access Defense Fund. So that's the One Love Jamaica Beach Access Defense Fund. And we need this fund because we have these cases in the court and we're taking on more cases, and we need to make sure that we can pay our bills. We can pay the lawyers to do so, because that's the one tool that we have left in the toolbox, which is the prescription right of Act of 1882 is what we are using, and that allows us to protect beaches until we have a legislative change. All right. Now, we have also a petition out there. There's actually 2 petitions out there. One that we're asking the government of Jamaica, the Governor General, and the King of England, because we really need them to kind of just back off of this thing. So that petition is to protect protect beach access for all Jamaicans. And that is at change.org. So you go to change.org, you can sign that petition. All right. So we're asking you to get involved, and how you can get involved. When you go to jabem.org, you could join the movement. You could come on as a volunteer. We love graphics artists because we'd like to make some cartoons and get some things out there. You know what I mean? So it's not only just money, but it's also donating your skill sets. If you are an educator and you want to kind of, do some sensitization in the schools, then come on board. And we're happy for that. We would like you to become part of the leadership circles. We're looking for folks in different parts of the island to really kind of provide us with all the information around their beaches. So we need volunteers to help with that. The advocacy part, which this platform is helping us with, it is to put on a political pressure on the system to say, acts like the Beach Control Act of 1956 needs to be repealed and replaced. And so we need the advocacy. So all the ones that were on tonight, tell your friend, tell your cousin, call your auntie, tell your mother, you understand, that this needs to change, and echo that. When you come across your counselor in your community, you tell them that this Beach Control Act of 1956 discriminate against your use of the foreshore. So we need to have it repealed and replaced. And if they don't come on board, well, I'm going to, uncheck that box that I checked for you, or I'm going to remove you from power, because we want people in there who are vested in our rights. And if you are not planning to sign on in repealing and replacing these legislation that are preventing us from accessing our beaches, we want you to out of power. So that is the advocacy piece. All right. Tell all of your celebrity friends them. A lot of you, get all of your artists them to sing some songs about it, to talk about it on stage. That is one of the biggest platforms that we have. And we're happy that Ziggy Marley has posted about this. So Ziggy Marley have now identified this issue as a major issue, because the childhood beaches that he used to use, he see that they're targeted. So he's, being a humanitarian, is also advocated for, general rights of access. And we're asking other entertainers to come on board. If you want to learn more about the issues, then contact us. Contact us at Jabem, and we will have that conversation with you. And we'll talk about the donation, and we also talk about signing the petition. There is one other thing that I want to talk about. All right? And this is hitting them where their pockets are. And what we're saying that if we don't see traction inside here, then we need to get serious. The way apartheid, one of the ways that apartheid was taken down in South Africa is through sanction and through people refusing to travel there. All right? What we're saying is that when you go to Jamaica or your friends go to Jamaica, they need to stay at resorts that allow Jamaicans to access the beaches. And we need to start understanding a lot of, the diaspora go back and stay in resorts. We need to start ask ourselves the question, am I going to stay at a resort where on any given day, my auntie, my mother, my sister, my brother, my friend can't access this? Do we really need to be participating in this segregatory space? And I don't do that. So we need to be soul searching within ourselves to say, am I going to stay in these places that exclude the ordinary Jamaicans? We need to ask that question. So all of these, we join the movement, helping the advocacy, donate at the GoFundMe space with the legal defense fund. all right, Beach Access Legal Defense Fund, sign the petition and really apply your pressure. And that's what we're talking about. And I think, I'm happy to come back on this platform here to further discuss the whole thing, because land rights is a very important thing. You know what I mean? If you see someone look like them going to close off your little track on the beach, he'll jab them. Yeah, man. We have a legal team that can come in and examine, collect the evidence, and file for you in the court. That's why we're structured. That's why we're setting up. Because the government is not doing it. They're saying that they want to give you that rights, but they are not doing it. So put the pressure upon them. Let's see if them can do a one-up on Jabem and declare tomorrow with the stroke of a pen, because they have the power in the Beach Control Act of 1956, and say all beach free. That's a challenge to the Prime Minister. Let's see what he does about that one.
Good. Dr. Taylor, I'm going one thing more to the Prime Minister. And if you sign it, if you not sign it, we're going to move you. We definitely have to move you. You're the largest man at the whole entire universe. I mean, I tell you straight. Yeah, and you can the people them. So we not joke with the non-tall. You make me people them from when they stand up in the poor neck, when they stand up in a mile long neck too. Yeah? All right, me talk straight. Yes, Maria.
Yeah, we have to do everything humanly possible to hold these politicians accountable, whether we live in Jamaica or in the diaspora, because we're all affected one way or another. And the only way for the system to be cleaned up and for the structure to change is not only to change government, but it's to change the whole system, the corrupt structure that has been in place for such a long time and has been working overtime. And so if we get rid of the corruption and put in place the good people, because the DPP, I mean, seriously, really, she's another story. We need good, honest people in the jobs.
Yes.
The qualified people in the jobs to clean it up. You cannot be afraid to hold somebody accountable. If the person is doing wrong, they're doing wrong. End of story, and let's move on. So we have to do whatever pressure we can bring to bear on the government to make sure they either shape up or ship out, because it cannot continue like this. They are destroying the country. And then how long do they think the people of Jamaica are going to sit down and take this kind of pressure and don't push back? This is how revolutions begin, because they will not take the hunger anymore. They'll not take the abuse anymore. And when they cannot take it anymore, they are going to respond accordingly.
Okay. Ratty?
The struggle continues. Thanks for having me here, sir.
All right, so Herb.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate being here. And listen, Daisy, you need.
Yeah, it's Maria. I didn't get to change my thing. Yes, hi, Herb.
Yeah, I had to check that out.
That's your magazine.
I
Yeah.
figured you wanted
That's your
to be on
magazine.
the
Tell them
cover,
your
but
magazine,
something happened, and then you come up with Maria.
Yeah, my name is Maria, but Daisy is really my magazine. So yeah, I'm Dr. Taylor. I'm gonna email you.
Okay.
That's
all right.
You're my brother from another mother.
No, before we leave, Ratty, somebody just request the two. Remember, I said the 28th, we have a little thing with Google, going on. So I try not to say it, because I know say, to me talk about Google. I remember telling no judge, who might have said, well, they have a bias against Google. No, Google is not a police. And if you use that and say, hey, I'm not going to listen to what Lonesome, I say, I'm me and Une, me just tell you, you understand? So I want it straight. Judge,
Yes,
be fair. You
Yes,
know
sir.
this, me just slow it. I wait till the 28th and make me see where you're going with. Because remember, I'll be a fire me spit, I'm in around. Me I can play my tune same way.
You know, it's very illegal to employ a baby to do big people job. You know that represent man. Yes. You have some baby, them a walk close to crib. Go up, poor, them a tell them make big spill. Get a piece of paper and finger when them a spill. Them a stutter and a bump me a feel laugh till me wake. I talk about fits, I come a talk about it. I talk about come and call it shit. Baby sentence, the right, you never yet complete. Baby can you need to feed him a rockin' to the big up to
Oh man.
All right, I think the man gonna throw you away.
No.
Google,
You're gonna get a counter lawsuit for the over that song.
No man, I'm a son. Google can't tell me nothing when he must start now.
Who you call Google? Who you call, sir? Because I don't know that person by that name. I don't know.
The
who
commissioner of police.
Oh.
Remember we have a case to the 28th, you know. Man, they go, make a get this is not a joke, a serious thing. You have a pastor from up in at St. Thomas. But the little child, the little 13-year-old when did molest, them choke the case, you know. The lady tell me, yes, them go 10 years. And you know, them are work with some politician involved. But when she said she got to court when almost 2 days ago or something, and when she look, them see a TV and a me on the TV. Me, you know. Me on the TV, and them ask if some police force her to say some things, and she said she don't remember. Them can make she go outside, come in and make sure hear the part when she say them force her. And then them say, okay, them not gonna need her back the court. Because remember, she a witness, you know. And me there in them court pan them TV. At least what me I say. So me know say, them up to something no good, you know. Remember, them shouldn't let go that pastor. Between the police and them draw out the case. 13-year-old child, baby. Yeah? And the pastor let go 10 years after. 10 years. This is Jamaica. Them for still, let me tell you, Jamaica for change, you know. It needs for change. Anyway, we're there, you know, we see we are knock up the place.
All right, take care. Thank you so much, Wayne, and good night.
Yeah, everybody.
Bless up, bless up.
Good night.
All right, bless.